So happy to have you. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Samantha, and I am the co-founder for Asian Leaders Alliance, or we call it ALA. ALA was launched in May 2018, and our goal is to bring together employee resource group from different companies together and to achieve things that one single ERG couldn't do themselves, and ultimately bring up the overall community and contribute to the larger ERG ecosystems. So Leon, if you can please help me navigate to the first slide. What you see here, a little bit about ALA, some of the things that we have done in the past, our missions, our visions, and really our achievements. Since we launched, since 2018, it's been less than 2 years, but we have over 85 Asian ERGs from Northern and Southern California, New York, and Texas. Individual members, we have over 400 plus individual members. We have raised over 14,000 for different nonprofits, and we have run 3 annual summer youth programs, supporting over 75 youths. And we had a series of ongoing professional development events and also ERG professional networking events. And of course, today's event, ERG Summit. Our goal is really to connect all the employee resource groups together so we can really advocate for the community. Leon, can you go on to the next slide? So why do we care about employee resource group or ERG, right? It is really because we truly believe in the fundamental pillars of ERGs, and they are 5, and those are what you see on the screen. Number 1 is community, celebrational. We believe that through ERG, we help create a community for employees of like minds and their allies to celebrate and educate the community's identity. Number 2, philanthropy, which means volunteering and doing goods. Number 3, advocates.
Have a meeting, don't
bringing,
talk too loud.
Bring awareness to issues, educating leaderships and others, and being active allies to other communities. Number 4, employee value, such as professional development and creating safe space for employees. And finally, business value, which means recruiting and bringing more diverse workforce and helping the business to adopt their products and services to the demographics. Okay, next slide, please. So what you see on the screen are some of the ERG representations. You can see we have a lot of big names, a lot of companies that have been involved with our organizations. And it's really only been just 2 years since ALA launch. I wanted to tell you more about what we have done and potentially how you can get involved as well, but we'll save that at about 5 p.m. today when we do our ALA updates. But today, what we really wanted to do is also to talk about some really important topics and have some really important discussions that are relevant to us, especially in this really unique time. But first, before I kick it off and start our first panel, I want to introduce you to Jason Chan. Jason is our moderator for our very first panel. So Jason has more than 20 years in advising companies on the strategic transformations. His experience spans many industries in management consulting and investment banking and technology with positions based in Hong Kong and the US. Jason currently works at Guidewire, where he leads the company's technology enablement team in San Francisco. Throughout his career, Jason has been active in giving back to his corporate and external communities via the leadership roles with employee resource group. He has led ERG at Mercer, KPMG, and Salesforce. Currently, Jason is the founding member and ERG leads of Guidewire's Asian ERG and is part of company's ERG program advisory team. Jason's involvement in equality work has extended to support other Asian ERG communities in the Bay Area. And he currently serves as VP of ALA. At ALA, Jason supports the development of the organization and led the creation of his first anti-Xenophobia campaign that has been rolled out to multiple ERGs in San Francisco Bay Area and beyond. Jason is an advisor and ambassador to Bay Equatorium in San Francisco and holds a BBA from Acadia University in Canada. So with that, Jason, I want to hand it to you to help us with our first panel.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Samantha, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our session here. It's our very first time that we're holding this event, so excited to bring our collective minds together and share with you, our thoughts on how we've been growing as an organization and how we've been reaching out to the community. So one of the first things we wanted to do, bring a little bit of levity to here. I know we have a poll that we wanted to run. So Leon, if you don't mind running that poll now, that'd be helpful. You know, the session that we're about to talk about is anti-racism and xenophobia. Obviously a topic that has a lot of us kind of in knots and is very divisive. But this poll here, hopefully, is something that can bring us all together. We did wrong poll, but I'll go with it. So this one is we were initially going to ask you about what your favorite drink was. One of the things that as a panel, one thing that we did agree on in such divisive times is getting together, and the common thread with all of us at least is that we enjoy boba. So I know this is not the survey for it, but would love for you to chime in on here, you know, how you have witnessed or experienced xenophobia, and we'll touch upon the results in a little bit. All right, so to kick this off, as Samantha mentioned, I helped to lead the strategic development of ALA, have been involved in numerous ERGs throughout my career, and have a very deep passion for giving back and making sure that ERGs and the Asian community are able to kind of further the narrative around community building, pushing the agenda forward with diversity and inclusion, and also just making it a fun place and a fun effort to be a part of. So we are blessed here today to have three panelists that have been very much my partners in crime as we as ALA roll out our anti-xenophobia campaign in March, where collectively with over 20 ERGs shaped a toolkit in which we were able to help ERGs enable themselves to talk about how they as an ERG group within their organization move forward discussion with leadership about how do we address racism towards the Asian community? How do we get those executive sponsors and leaders within their organizations to speak up, show up as allies, and then also build a sense of community, but also enabling them to be able to speak about these issues. We as ERG leaders, we as people of the community have oftentimes struggled with how do we bring this up in the midst of all the other discussions that are going on with the other communities. And our goal with this anti-racism xenophobia toolkit was to help enable that discussion. So with that, you know, I know you're all eager to hear from the panelists themselves. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to first turn it over to our first panelist, Jimmy Kwa, who is our co-founder of ALA, and start the discussion there. So Jimmy, I know you're a super passionate equality champion, and have been obviously very much involved with all the efforts within ALA, and you and I have partnered up at Salesforce to push the agenda along. You know, tell us a little bit about what led to your involvement in helping to, or wanted to address racism towards Asians here. Jimmy, you're on mute.
Somebody got to do that at least once during a Zoom call, right? So thank you very much, Jason, for introducing me. Just to do a quick introduction about who I am. My name is Jimmy. I'm the co-founder and co-president of Asian Leaders Alliance. My day job is I'm a lead software engineer at Salesforce, and I am also the founder and global advisor for Asia Pac Force, which is the Asian ERG. One of the other organizations you're here today is actually Southeast Asian Development Center. I am actually one of the board members of Southeast Asian Development Center. And to kind of tell you how I identify myself, I'm actually ethnically Chinese, but culturally Vietnamese. I identify myself a little bit more towards Southeast Asian and Vietnamese because my mom was born in Vietnam. And so to kind of answer the question that Jason had is like, why did this come in? So I grew up in the Midwest. I was born and grew up in the Midwest. Being Asian, I was the only one there. And it's kind of interesting because you are a little bit different, but then they don't know how to handle it. And that's just, you know, education, et cetera, of getting them to understand what that is. But it wasn't until like I moved into California where you see a little bit more diversity, but then you see these microaggressions that are occurring on. And these happen throughout my whole life. And it's always been really interesting because I sometimes notice it, I sometimes don't. But the thing that got me really, really kind of into this is I have to give credit to the other panel speaker here is actually Mabel. When this whole COVID started occurring back in February, we were all figuring out what's going on. We're on lockdown. I just started working from home because Salesforce said we should all be working from home. And Mabel hit me up and saying, "Hey, Jimmy, what is these things? Is ALA or is anybody talking about what's happening to the Asian community?" And I guess for me, I didn't think about it that much. I was like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And Mabel actually gave me articles, gave me information. I was like, "Holy cow, this is something that's not just towards East Asians, but it's happening to Southeast Asians and other individuals in the Asian community that greatly affects us." And then what was worse, that nobody was bringing awareness to this. It was extra doubled on because of what was happening with quote unquote rhetoric that certain individuals were using in terms of the Chinese virus was affecting Chinatown, affecting other small businesses on top of the struggles they have. People kind of have this belief that Asians have it well, and it's because we have this myth of the monolith, the one Asian, we're all East Asian, which is not true. I know for a fact that a lot of our community members in the Tenderloin who are South Asians, Southeast Asians have been greatly affected by COVID and by racism. And so I kind of, because of Mabel and the rest of everyone in ALA that was really interested, I kind of jumped in to wanting to help out, and they were the main drivers for that. And so, yeah, Jason, that's kind of how I got really involved with this. Like, it is the community itself bringing awareness for me. Unfortunately, it looks like Jason's internet went down, and so he'll be back up. But it's always fun when something happens. So I guess kind of taking on though, Mabel, since I kind of like talked about how you prompted this to me to bring awareness for me on what we needed to do. Could you kind of fill in the other side of that story?
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. I sincerely appreciate all the times, the phone calls we've had of me venting in this journey and you giving guidance because we know that this fight is not easy, to say the least. Hi, all. Wanted to start with a bit of an introduction. My name is Mabel, as you've heard already. I am proud to call myself an American-born Chinese, trilingual, native to the Bay, a former Fulbrighter, currently with Airbnb, working in advocacy policy media. Fun fact, I got hired as a community organizer 4 years ago. I think one of the reasons is because I could speak Chinese, which is great. I was tasked to pilot our first Chinese American outreach program, which sincerely offered a stepping stone for me to lead AsianSat as our global chair. And so in navigating a lot of the different issues that we are trying to advocate, and particularly this year, as mentioned by Jimmy, with the, starting with the outbreak of the pandemic, news from China, and then evolving into spiraling cases of intensified racism experiences in our community, it's been a real challenge to lead Asians at Airbnb and members and provide a safe space and really have a place to acknowledge that this is truly an issue that our community is facing. And since doing so, I've definitely leaned heavily on Asian Leaders Alliance community to really develop communication skills and to a certain extent, D&I expertise, right? We have a great network of folks who are in this space, who have great, for example, talking points, know how to guide us through messaging, and ultimately how to be an effective leader in this space. Currently, I am our comms lead, and I couldn't be more grateful that I could lean on such a talented, passionate, community-minded leaders within ALA to go on this journey that we know it's long and hard, but should be done to push back on anti-Asian sentiment. So I'm going to pass it over to Pawan. You take it away.
Hi, thanks, Mabel. Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me all right? Maybe Jimmy, you're on my screen. Someone's mowing their lawn outside. So here's the realities of virtual events. All right, I think that was no thumbs down anyways. Well, anyways, my name is Pawan Young. My pronouns are she, her. And I recently was very pleased to join the leadership team at Asian Leaders Alliance. My role being an ERG lead to bring together all the employee resource groups and also to serve in strategic partnerships. I work full-time at Twitter in strategy, innovation, customer experience, and I'm also the global chair for Twitter Asians. In line with the theme of Asians not being a monolith, I know Jimmy kicked us off by having us each share how we identify. And so I like to introduce myself as a two-time immigrant because I was born in Hong Kong, moved to Canada when I was 2. So very much grew up with Canadian upbringing and then moved to the Bay Area a couple of years ago. One thing I think we all want to share as leads of Asian Leaders Alliance is something that we're really proud of related to our volunteer work with this group. I'll go into it later, but I'm very proud of the Asian Leaders Alliance Toolkit that we were able to come together and build to really support other ERGs to have a conversation around approaching leadership and talking about this very important issue of anti-racism, anti-xenophobia. So I will get into that, but the other thing I'm really excited about with ALA is launching a new professional development series called Real Talk, where we have real talk with entrepreneurs to share that side of the Asian American experience. So that's my quick intro. And I believe Jason kicked us all off with the initial question of how we got involved specifically with this anti-xenophobia allyship campaign. So, or sorry, even just with like the cause at the beginning of that pandemic. So for me, I remember it being February and I was starting to see stories on Twitter that were really offensive around the Chinese virus that was being called that, very harmful words, and also, you know, these pictures of bat soup, and that's how, you know, Chinese people were spreading it. So it was like very upsetting, offensive. My friends were starting to send me stories as well of an increase in both verbal and physical attacks against the Asian community just for their appearance. And so that really riled up something in me, and I wanted to make sure that I got involved in terms of spreading awareness and providing support, first and foremost, because of my role as one of the global chairs at Twitter for Twitter Asians. I knew the company already had mechanisms in place to offer these talks for employees that were really treated as a safe place, like nothing was recorded, everything was going to stay in that community. And so that was sort of my first step of bringing this awareness to the inclusion diversity team so that we could host a space to start talking about it. And I think later on this presentation, I'll go into some more actionable steps and how I was able to scale that effort to ELA. So I'll give it back to Jason.
Wonderful, thank you for that. It wouldn't be a Zoom call if somebody didn't speak on mute or get dropped off. So I'm back now. Thank you for sharing that experience with us. You know, going back to Jimmy, I know, you know, we've been talking a lot about how our collective efforts at ERGs vary because of the level of maturity within kind of the leadership at companies about how to address these topics around supporting their respective Asian ERGs. You know, tell me a little bit about some of the themes or some of the things you faced as you were going through helping to, you know, drive the initiatives within your organization and things that you've heard from other organizations around, you know, taking this conversation forward.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's always one of these big things, as you know, we are tackling an issue that is pretty large and we don't know how to quite address it or handle it. But it is something that's important that needs to be brought to awareness that's going on. As having conversation, even through my experiences, the biggest thing around this is not enough education. I've, in the past, even at my employer and even hearing other ERG leads talk about it, was that they, around February or March when this started happening, they were trying to bring awareness to what was happening to the Asian community, about how it was hurtful and detrimental to our community. that certain rhetoric like the Chinese virus was being used that didn't just affect the Chinese community, but it affected all Asians, because unfortunately here in the US, people don't normally look at you and say, oh, you're Chinese or you're Vietnamese or you're Laos or you're Cambodian. They generalize and say you're Asian. And so what ended up happening was we all were targeted and we all were affected by what was going on. And the thing for me was the fact that I had to speak up and educate people. So I had talked with some of the leadership at my company and some of the individuals, and I've suggested others to do so, which was not just saying that our family is running to racism and this is an issue, but actually bringing them to understand that this is not just being racism towards what we call Asian or East Asian, which is what people typically see, but this is acts that affect every Asian that's categorized by that. And little information there is 60 to 70% of the world population is categorized by Asian. The demographics, the number of ethnicities and culture that is bucketed by Asians as over 130 ethnicities and cultures out there. That is a huge footprint in terms of that. And by saying that Asians are doing well, it actually covers up that there are certain Asian demographics, like the Vietnamese community, the Southeast Asian community, that are being affected a lot more due to poverty, jobs, health, wellness, and even racism. And so a lot of times when I was talking to some people, some organizations were like, oh, well, this is not something we should focus on. Obviously, around the same time, there was affecting our fellow Black community in terms of BLM and George Floyd, which is something that we also need to be aware of and also be supportive of the community. But we also have to, when that occurred, I actually told my leadership, like, I understand that's going on. And what I'm not telling you to actually take away from that community or not focus on the community. But the fact is, all our communities are running into racism at different levels of varying effects. And we do need to support each other and also give the ability so that we could support each other along these lines. And to bring awareness that racism is bad. And that's what all these causes are, is about trying to fight against racism towards anybody and all persons. And that was just some of the things. And it's just like I want to just one thing before is whenever you see someone say, hey, this is not the right spot, or something like that, don't take it as a stop sign to stop trying. What you need to think is when someone says something like that, that's a warning sign for you, a yield sign that the fact that somebody is not informed of what's going on, and it's your duty as a leader, as an Asian individual, either Chinese, Vietnamese, South Asians, etc., to actually help educate them about what is actually happening and to give them a better holistic view of that. Otherwise, it's a disservice to all of us.
Absolutely. Well said, Jimmy. And thank you for sharing that with us. A lot of the themes that you talked about just now were some themes that Mabel and I also talked about it during our USC Convo link on our website regarding that. But speaking of, being able to speak about this and being able to be an ally in this space to communities, not just for ourselves, but others. Mabel, we talked a lot about how you've been part of a successful campaign within your organization to make sure that, not only are you standing up for the Asian community, but you're also bringing a sense of active allyship to another community. Do you want to talk a little bit about your success there?
Yes, absolutely. And I think we're really referring to active allyship here, which we know is truly critical for us to learn and grow while building the type of coalitions necessary for us to combat racism as a whole. And want to also recognize that, while other communities of color may be facing discrimination that's different to our community in various degrees and ways, but it's undeniable that we are all fighting the same fight in seeing that all of our vote rises. So in really understanding active allyship, I wanted to call out a definition that a great organization started by a thought leader, Michelle Kim, Awaken, and their definition of what active allyship is. Allyship is an active and consistent practice of using power and privilege to achieve equity and inclusion while holding ourselves accountable to marginalized people's needs. So from Asians at Airbnb end, we first went through more of an individual, personal kind of effort to transform, right? Through workshops that Asians at Airbnb in collaboration with our DNB team, diversity and belonging team, offered by and facilitated by our own D&I experts within our teams, but also external facilitators who are identified as API and also versed in this space, to really educate us on complex concepts like internalized racism, which some of you may have or may not have heard before, and to really reflect on the types of privileges we hold and what we can do to help others who are less privileged. And this is an effort to really take accountability of the harm that our community may place on other communities less privileged, like for example, the Black community, and to encourage us to then take the next step, take action to fight harm and educate others, like our parents, right? Having a tough conversation with our parents about why we want to support BLM is not easy, but must be done in order for us to really, truly organize our community to take action. And one really great example of that, of Asians at Airbnb taking action, is that in this past May, June, we organized a phone bank within 48 hours to call this district attorney to demand justice for George Floyd and hold authorities accountable for Black lives earlier this year. I think someone's TV is on. Just calling that out. It was a proud moment. So that moment, earlier this May, June, it was definitely a proud moment for me to witness, because we're not only doing what was right to do, the right thing for the community, but I do think that to a certain extent, we were also pushing back against, if this stereotype does exist, that Asian community does not show up for others. So in the journey of advocating for our voice to be heard, we also must show up for other communities and doing it the same, because at the end of the day, you've heard of this before, we are truly stronger together.
Yeah, that's great, Mabel. And this is an example of a case that we always highlight now when we talk about ALA, right? Is an example of where the community has come out to help for the narrative for the Asian community. Pawan, do you want to share with us a little bit about your experience with how successful a campaign that you had during that time, and kind of talk to us about some outcomes of that? No worries. Pawan, are you on or mute?
I think it was a little hard to hear the last part of Jason. I'm just looking at the chat. Can everyone hear me all right? Maybe if someone could just like say yes. Okay, I got a thumbs up for Jimmy. Awesome. I think I heard most of the question, and that was around how many other ERGs and people in our community wanted to step up and do something during the beginning of this pandemic, and at the beginning of this whole increase in in xenophobia and racism, and how to address it. And so I'll share a bit more about what Twitter was able to do, because that was something I was really proud of being part of Twitter Asians, was that the nature of our platform is very public. Our platform is where a lot of social movements first took place. I mean, you think about, hashtag Me Too, hashtag Black Lives Matter, which surfaced again later on this summer. And so that's, oh, wait, I'm seeing in chat. Connection's horrible. Okay, yes. So I'll share a bit about how we, as an employee resource group at Twitter, we were successful in getting that leadership awareness, and then also the way a lot of my colleagues also felt the need to share some of their personal stories. So I mentioned that we had these regular occurring kind of safe place talks at work. And I was able to suggest to a few Asian employees that reached out to me and wanted to have a place to share their experience. I invited them to speak, and it just so happened that one of our execs was at this small group session. I think there was maybe like 40 to 50 people. And after hearing some of these very raw, real stories of people saying like, oh, because I'm Asian, I was on the bus in San Francisco and someone told me, go back to China. And it's like, she's not even from China. And she's being told to go back to this other country just based on her appearance. Or someone else who is from China, I mean, not that that really matters, her mom was getting verbally attacked just for wearing a mask. And this is also before masks were widely adopted beginning of the pandemic. And so the mom became more afraid of wearing the mask and being a target for verbal abuse than wearing it for safety and health reasons. So these stories were starting to surface. People spoke up and shared this in our small group session. And because leadership attended, they said, you know what, this is a very important topic. And you, Pawan, as the chair of Twitter Asians, why don't you speak at our next company all hands? So Twitter is a company of 5,000 global employees all around the world. And that was a real vote of confidence that leadership was saying, no, this is an issue. This is affecting the well-being and mental health for play. So they invited me to speak, which was an incredible opportunity to start sourcing some more of these stories. Again, a lot of my colleagues were very brave to tweet out some of the stories that I just shared. And so that was sort of the main coming out or exposure into this. And actually to this day, I have a summary of my talk to all the leaders in all the company on my Twitter profile. It's my most viewed tweet, and one that I'm proud of because of the awareness that it brought to this situation and showing that, you know, words do matter. This is very serious, and there are real life consequences to this type of language of Chinese virus and so on. And at the same time, one of my colleagues was actually from Wuhan, China, where this all began. And she tweeted a picture of, and some of you may have seen it, it went viral, like 70,000 likes on Twitter, of this medical team from Wuhan as they were flying to Italy, because that was the next big outbreak. And she wrote something like, you know, say what you want about, you know, the Chinese government, how they handled things, but like, look at these people. These are the real heroes. They're the ones on the front lines. And yes, they are from Wuhan where they started, but like, these are everyday people. And that was a very powerful message that she shared as well, just to humanize this whole thing. And I was really glad to get involved with ALA as a next step because that was a chance to scale some of the work we had been doing at Twitter, like on our platform, and again, share this and educate folks in other companies as an example of here's how you can bring attention to what Twitter's doing, or here's a way to talk about this at your company. If you need actual examples, this is all public and on platform, and also just start sharing best principles for if you want to get a message out there, here's how.
Great, thank you for that, and apologies for the shoddy internet connection here, but you got everything across that we wanted to talk about. So that is a very great example of where a company's been extremely successful, had a lot of backing from their organization, and not all ERGs have that. And I know just from personal experience and others that I've spoken to, you know, it's a journey. So Mabel, I was just wondering if you can comment a little bit about some of the barriers that you think that we could take. Sorry, some of the barriers that you've heard about or experienced directly, indirectly about how do we make sure we can get around these issues and move forward the conversations, and how have you dealt with it personally?
Great question, Jason. Again, navigating this both internally and externally, it's not easy. It's also for the long haul. But in my experience, in really elevating this issue across Airbnb, via Asians and engaging various stakeholders, I noticed that there are the key challenge is two-pronged. And some might agree that it's kind of like a chicken or egg question. So first is really about speaking up at the kind of basic level, right? Like really sharing, being empowered and have courage to share our stories when we do face discrimination, to be able to speak up about it. And certainly if it's a workplace discrimination, to be able to elevate that up top for it to be addressed. And we know that within our community, traditionally, it's been harder to do so due to a number of reasons. Some unique to our community, like cultural barriers and the fear of repercussions, negative repercussions, and so on and so forth. And so speaking up is really hard. But then without speaking up and elevating some of our stories to our execs and leaders, how are they going to know that this is affecting our community, right? So the other part of this challenge is trying to get the very key stakeholders, and we're talking about in abstract, those with authority and power in the company, to really stand up for our community, because we know it goes a long way for leaders to acknowledge, the fact that our community is facing this pain, and that we kind of need the blessing and feel empowered to speak up about it and share. And know that when we do, we are heard. And that is why I really applied Twitter Asians poll on your work and your leadership in really, advocating for this issue within Twitter, and having Twitter, giving guidance to Twitter to make public statements, speak up about it in internal all hands, so that everyone, not just the API community within Twitter, everyone is aware of the severity of this problem and how much of a toll that it could take on our mental health, and to promote active allyship across company. And so with that, the other piece of the puzzle, right, again, is really trying to get to our leaders, our execs, to really recognize this. And that's why we lean so heavily on our D&I department. It's because more often than not, our execs may not have the understanding yet, just like how Jimmy was saying, the education piece is lacking, that there needs to be a certain information gap to be bridged for execs to really empathize with our community. And so the D&I department, having them as an ally to really lean on them for resources to get to execs is really critical there. And so in Airbnb trying to, in Asians that, Airbnb trying to overcome these struggles, I would say, first of all, to Jimmy's point, really education, polishing on the education piece, lean on resources. There are great panels, thought leaders, crowdfunded resources. The recent McKinsey and Company paper, COVID-19 and Advancing Asian American Recovery, that is gold. I would recommend all of us to read that if we want to advocate on API issues. Carving out the safe space, like Pawan said, that is tremendous, because we want to hold space for people to share their own stories, to be elevated up top, or just to simply be there and hear folks out, right, during tough times. Working with the DNI team, and if we can't reach out to executives, if that's difficult, even through the DNI team, and that's a reality, then perhaps we could reach out to other API leaders within the company, those who may have the ear of execs, to then, help us communicate that issue and elevate it up. Certainly reach out to allies, particular influencers, and there are a lot more that can be done, but these are some of the things that, we've learned to take away from this experience and what we plan to do to move forward.
And I want to quickly jump in terms of like what Mabel was talking about, education and stuff like that, and talking and being empathetic with our execs, but with also the other community, is the fact that we assume that if we try to talk, nothing would happen. But like, even if you just have that open conversation, it does do a lot. So an example, as I told you before, I talked with my execs and at Salesforce and such, and I kind of got them to understand what was happening to the community. And not that we were trying to deter from any other, but we wanted support from our community. And actually within 24 hours, the company, Salesforce as a whole, published publicly on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, support for the Asian community, and that racism towards our community and every other community, any community, is wrong. And that's the thing, is to be empathetic, understanding, but still have those conversations. We should not just stop because they told us no. We should continue to communicate and educate and bring empathy to the table.
Yeah, love that, Jimmy. You know, we as the ERG leaders here, we have the responsibility to help educate up, right? While the Office of D&I is educating down and providing an opportunity for us to have that voice. So I think it's very important for us as ERG leaders to take that step to help promote that word, especially since, you know, many D&I leaders are not of Asian descent, just looking at it across the board anecdotally. And so I think it's super critical for us to speak up. I know we're at time, but I do want to make sure that I throw in one more question for each of the panelists as a quick fire question. So in less than 30 seconds for each of you, starting with Jimmy, select one of these questions to answer. What does belonging mean to you as an Asian in America? Or who's your role model? 30 seconds, Jimmy, stay on point.
So for me, what it means to be belonging as an Asian American, I think for me is the idea of being understanding and empathetic. I think as us as a community, being a very diverse community, we have to be empathetic towards other community and each other. Even within the Asian culture and the demographic, there's a lot of things happening between the different Asians. Like, we do have really bad history, but moving forward, we still, to change things, we need to be empathetic and understanding of each other if we want to change anything for the future.
Awesome. Mabel?
I'm going to choose role model. Just to spice it up a little bit. I would say growing up has been my mother. I've learned a lot from her and her wisdom and experience, really persevering as first in our family to step foot in the US. And later, I've also decided that my perfect role model would actually be an interesting combo of Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec. I don't know if you guys know of her. And Awkwafina together. So like kind of funny, kind of edgy, definitely unapologetically themselves, passionate community leaders, persistent, go-getters, all of that good stuff, because we need all that to really go on this long, hard journey of combating racism across communities.
Absolutely, thank you. And Pawan?
Thanks. Okay, I know we're at time, so I'm just going to combine things. There was so much that was said about the speaking up, so I just want to also plug that. That's something that we at Twitter, we used a lot in our allyship campaign, #StandUpSpeakOut. I also plugged my Twitter there if anyone wants to see more about what we've done. And then in terms of role model, I want to plug Michelle Kim. Maple mentioned her earlier, and she's an activist, top published author on Medium to talk about diversity, inclusion, belonging initiatives. And we actually had the pleasure of having her speak to Twitter Asians last week. And she was just really incredible because she talks about her upbringing and her many intersections of being, female, queer, an immigrant, Asian American, growing up poor. And she just had such a wealth of experiences and intersections to share. And she addressed something that's happened this past year where everyone's been suffering. Like, yes, right now we are talking about the Asian community. We've also referenced the social injustice that happened during the summer with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And also now with the pandemic, I mean, there are certain groups that have been largely affected. You think of the Latinx community or the Southeast Asian community, a lot of them that have frontline workers and their very high rates of COVID. And so during this time of difficulty for everyone, there is a tendency that has come out, and the name is Oppression Olympics of, okay, well, how can I support this other community when I'm hurting? And I thought it was just really amazing how Michelle, with her her experience, her advice was really that you need to take care of your own house. Like, there are very many different flavors of racism, and her way of talking about it was that for Asians, a lot of it is that erasure of an Asian identity. And so being able to take that power and own your identity again, have the conversations within your own community and sort that out first, then we can all truly live out that ideal of understanding that someone else's struggle is also your struggle. So I'll close with that because I really loved a lot that she has to say on this matter. So that's how I answer my role model question.
Great stuff. Thank you for all that insight. Thank you for all that knowledge. I just wanted to say there's a lot of themes that we covered off today. Some very good experiences that we have amongst this panel as well as the others. I just want to make a plug for the breakout sessions that we have later. If there's anything that you want to deep dive on, you want to talk to us individually, there's an opportunity to do that. So stick around. I think it's 4:30 that we kick off the breakout panels, but Samantha, you can correct me, and looking forward to speaking with you all at the breakout room. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I'm going to introduce the next speaker. So we have Joanne, who's actually the Fong, which will actually moderate the next panel. So she'll take over.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Fong. I'm part of ALA. I'm the community lead with Asian Leader Alliance. I'm currently also a risk advisor for Marsh, which is an insurance and risk management firm. So just a really quick reminder to the audience, we have the live chat going on. So feel free to type out questions there. We have a 15-minute Q&A session at the end to ask our panelists questions. So feel free to type in your questions in the chat. We'll continue to monitor the chat. So we, as part of the Asian Leader Alliance and ERG leaders, we spend a lot of time to talk about and also put a lot of effort in kind of developments and how we can make impact by facilitate collaborations and resource with employee resource group. So this is something that is core to Asian Leader Alliance value, and that's something that we really deeply care about, and constantly making impact on. So it's our great pleasure to have our panelists today for our second panel. From the corporate side, they have tremendous leadership experience, have very successful career and involvement with diversity and inclusion work. And especially, I think it's interesting to kind of talk about these topics, also kind of touch a little bit on how that kind of shift a little bit, especially during a pandemic in remote working environments. So I'm going to kick this off by introducing our panelists today. So we have Faye Sahai. Faye is currently the co-founder and partner at Mirai SV Global and the managing director at Finarch Venture, consulting in innovations and investing in digital health startup with Tulasi Fund. Faye is also the senior advisor at Exponential Talent, focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies to tap power to diverse workforce. Faye has been celebrated as an innovation growth leader, diversity change catalyst in multiple companies, including some brands that we are very familiar with, AIG, Busho, Deloitte, Charles Schwab, and Kaiser Permanente. Faye has many forms of recognitions, including being named on the Insurance Business Hot 100 Elite Women in Insurance Business America in 2007, also received an Ascent Award in the same year, and was recognized among Computer World top premier IT leaders in 2015. So Faye, thank you very much for joining us today. Our next panelist is Win Chung. Win is currently the Western Regional Public Sector State and Local Solutions Engineering Director at Oracle. She began her career as a software engineer, developing financial application solutions. Win was the recipient of Oracle's CEO Club Award for Account Management Excellence in 2011, 13, and also 2014. For the last 12 years, she has served as a community leader for the OWL headquarter community, focused on giving back to community, professional developments, and empowering women leadership. She's also the founder and chairperson of the Oracle Professional Asian Leader Employee Resource Group. She recently joined the board of directors for a nonprofit named Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation. She's also a mentor for Women Unlimited, which is an organization that focuses on mentoring, education, and networking. Thanks, Win, for joining. Our next panelist is Fred Tang. Fred is currently a managing director at the private health business tax practice for Grant Thornton in LA office. He has over 17 years experience servicing private health, multinational, multi-state clients in consumer product and healthcare industry with annual revenues up to 2 billion. Fred is also the national executive sponsor for Pan-Asian Business Resource Group and a champion for diversity and inclusions in his company, Fred Drive Cross-Cultural Initiative, and for the employee at his firm. And then last, we have Yiting Shen. Yiting is currently the global head of external networking management at Citigroup. Yiting is responsible for over 260 bank relationship in over 100 market for Citi Treasury Trade Solutions business. She's passionate about emerging market champions in business innovations and digitalizations. She managed a large scale of public sector programs and developed a cross-border instant payment system. She's currently the global ambassador for Citi Women Leadership Development Program and also the co-chair for Asian Heritage Network. So very, very impressive experience with very diverse experience across different industry. So first, I really wanted to, kick off the panel with maybe for the panelists to quickly, you may give us some introductions of yourself and maybe why you're interested or passionate about the topic that we're talking about today for the second panel. Faye, do you want to start?
Yeah, so from this, and it's wonderful to be here with all of you as well. My background is I have Thai, Chinese immigrant parents that came here to the US as residents, and resonated with kind of the story and the discussions of growing up in a childhood in upstate New York where, they spray painted on our driveway, go home. From that standpoint. So not feeling welcome a little bit early and sticking out as being the only Asian child in our whole school from that standpoint. So definitely resonating. And what I feel having 2 kids of my own is I hope that as we are all championing it, that they don't have to face that discrimination going forward. I feel very lucky being in the Bay Area that there isn't that level of kind of discrimination because there are more Asians here. But I feel as we kind of noticed and with this anti-Asian sentiment that's coming. So really feel privileged to be here as well. And also looking forward and collaborating between ALA and Ascend as well. So I appreciate all of you and all the work that you do.
Thanks, Faye. Wen?
Hi, everybody. My name is Win Chang, and I'm extremely honored to be here today. And I grew up born in China, Beijing, and then we migrated here to America when I was 3 and spent most of my childhood in Miami, Florida. And I think similar to Faye, Miami, Florida, there were not a lot of Chinese. And I feel extremely privileged and honored because we really came to America for that, that opportunity. I kind of feel like people who work hard and have those opportunities, that America is that land of opportunity. And I feel like that's been one of the privileges that I have had. And although my parents had to suffer quite a bit because my dad in China, he was actually a lawyer and a Russian translator. But when he came here, he became a dishwasher. And so I think that journey for me really allows me to share my story. And I think as the model minority, I really want to break that model and really work with through the ERGs to tell that story and to help pay forward. So thank you for having me as part of this panel.
Thanks, Win. Fred? I think you're on mute.
Sorry, thanks, Joanne. Thanks again for the warm introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Fred Tan. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles all my life. I'm Chinese by background. Parents immigrated from China to LA many years ago. And been fortunate enough to have gone through Chinese school for many years. So I can read and speak Chinese pretty fluently. And I think that kind of transferred over to what I do every day at work and serving clients to some extent, and which has both pros and cons. And but most importantly, I'm really passionate about diversity and inclusion, and my role as one of the diversity champions here at my firm. I work with alongside with other leaders in other offices to really execute on a strategy and how to recruit, advance, and retain our Pan-Asian professionals to ensure that they're getting the soft skills that they need in order to move up the career ranks, which is still a work in progress, at least in my industry. And certainly happy to talk about some of the topics that we're going to explore a little bit further here on shortly, but appreciate the opportunity to share my journey, my personal journey and story with all of you that hopefully will resonate.
Thanks for it. Tang.
Hey everyone, this is Tang. Greetings from London. It's quite late here, but I'm so excited hearing the first panel and now being here with this fabulous panel. And thank you for Joanne moderating for us. I also want to give a big thank you to Sam and Jimmy and Jason, all the organizers. I felt this whole program is being planned for quite some time, and then a lot of efforts, energy going in. So very privileged and proud to be here. So for me personally, I was born and raised in Shanghai. I've worked actually in 10 different countries. Some of them are in Asia, like Korea and India. I love the Asian culture. I wear sari during Diwali festivals, love spicy food. So growing up in different countries and working there, it just gives me that diverse perspective. So being able to apply not only at work communities, but also broadly. So aside from what just being introduced, I'm also the president for the Asian Columbia Alumni Association, very much involved in the alumni community, both in the US and also globally, in particular here right now, in London or Great Britain. It's quite fun to work with the community and being able to do things as things are going well. I think this year in particular, not only just COVID, but many things happened around the world, like what's ever going on in Hong Kong, and then just the various issues that has been discussed in the previous panels. There's more to do beyond just social being together. Wanted to raise the voices as the Asian community. We may have separate groups in different geographies, in different sectors. I think it's so important that there's the opportunity that we rise up. That's why this panel is so important, talking about leadership and our own career and how in our own context, whether it's the corporate environment or community, the ERGs can help us thrive. So I'll just stop here and then look forward to the discussion. There's very, very exciting topics planned. Thank you.
Thanks, Tang. So let's get started with our first questions, and the topic is around leadership. And this is very relevant to kind of where we are, in the pandemic right now. So the first questions for, our panelists is, what is your view on leadership during a crisis, like we're in right now? How can leaders support their employees and organizations during a COVID-19 crisis like this and the recovery process? What behavior that helps leaders to navigate the pandemic and recovery? So I'm going to start backward this time. Tang, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, sure. So it's a lot of evolving, and then also in terms of how companies and communities going through as we adapt to the various situations. First and foremost, I would say communication is very much key. Be able to share what's going on, whether it's the company or a organization's overall direction, whether it is employee related, because some people may worry about being laid off, work situations, but more broadly in the business context, where the business is standing, we still continue moving. Some business, are thriving, right? Like Zoom and the like, but other businesses may be heavily impacted. So it's so important the leaders giving that direction and then keep employee honest and confident in the crisis. And then second, I would say is to make a really good efforts to adjust the work arrangements. It reflects in many ways. In the normal days that people don't work from home, now everybody's working from home. So how to make life a little small places easier, or the ones who actually wanted to go to the office, make it safe, clean, making sure employees wanted to go to the office, they have that confidence and then being able to perform the work, not worried about, you know, being spread by virus or other situations. Aside from that, there's those surrounding programs such as like a nutritional suggestions, mental health. We all experience sometimes, you know, sleep just because staying home too much, not enough of exercise, mentally stressed for a variety of reasons. The company can provide a variety of tools. For example, some of the online coaching and then some of the physical, you know, exercises and nutrition plans, whether it's for meal, for cooking, or just how to diversify different things. Little things matter to help employee feels that being embraced. And then thirdly, I would say it's the call planning. We call it like a business continuity planning. In a normal circumstances, we do lots of planning. And then now it's actually the time beyond just planning, it's also execution. And while we execute during the COVID situation or many other crises that, you know, some of us experienced in certain geographies, I had a pleasure to actually interview quite several of our CEOs in different geographies, different challenges in Middle East, in Asia. It's how we can adapt ourselves, being very fluid in predicting what's going to happen, because leaders have to do 10 steps ahead and then lead the team to give guidance on what may possibly happen. So we, for example, do quite a bit of scenario planning, what kind of the situation could happen, the impact to the business, workforce-wise, business-wise, many, many factors. And also stress testing, and to really see how our system, our people can handle different things, from the simple things like roll calls to really system stress testing, giving that opportunity that can we fully occupy and work through things. So I'm gonna just stop here briefly and just see if any other panelists wanted to comment on all these.
Yeah, I think those are really great point, Yi-Ting. I think business continuity and always have, you know, plan A, B, and C, and, you know, risk management is very important. And I think you also mentioned, you know, flexibility. You know, I think, you know, manager really need to kind of provide more flexibility to employees, and because I think, you know, people might have, you know, different situations and different needs during the pandemic, and, you know, what the manager and the company can provide resource, you know, to help employee during this time. So Fred, do you have what's your thought on that?
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. So, you know, my view on the topic of leadership in a crisis really focused on agility in supporting and building a team. My work experience during this pandemic has definitely been an interesting one. You know, I was never a fan of working from home to begin with, because I've always enjoyed visiting my clients, going to the office and connecting with my team, grabbing lunch, coffee, dinner, etc. I love the human interaction, but I had to quickly adapt to this new virtual environment and really navigate through the different technology platforms, which oftentimes could be challenging, not only from a client service perspective, but also being able to connect with my team and making sure that they're getting the development they need. I can honestly say that I have a lot more meetings scheduled on my calendar these days during the pandemic than ever before, and which is largely attributable to meetings with my team and connecting with them on a one-on-one basis at a personal level, getting to know them better, and just making sure that they're feeling supported. And most importantly, encouraging them to take time off to recharge after busy season. especially this year. I mean, in a tax world, it's been a pretty crazy last 6 months, you know, with a lot of guidance and stimulus bill, CARES Act, you know, all of that good stuff, and, you know, a lot more coming, depending on what Biden's tax plan is going to look like. But, you know, the bottom line is, you know, as leaders of our firm, we have to be very intentional in making sure that our people are really taking time off to relax and recharge and not feel burned out. And I do feel that we end up working a lot more in this virtual environment, hence more of a reason for us to be more intentional in making sure that our teams are really taking advantage of the time that they need to recharge. So to Yi Ting's point earlier, I think we just have to think a little bit differently in how we operate now, and really strategize on how to really continue to sustain that team building model in order to really sustain or retain the people that we want to stay at our organization. Because I could see that a lot of folks could easily be burned out just because of the fact that, you know, we're all cooped at home and it's just easy to be sucked into to work on projects on a nonstop basis. So yeah, I think that's just really a few thoughts that I had on this topic, Joanne.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think for me personally, because now we're all working from home, it's just, you know, so difficult to separate between like work and your personal life. It's kind of all blend together. So I think that's something that definitely I think it's important that we kind of need to make sure we have time to recharge and make sure you're not like, you know, burn out with all the work and, you know, your personal life all blend together. So our next questions is also around leadership. You know, we can't really have a Asian American focused career conference without talking about the bamboo ceiling. Just a quick definitions. So bamboo ceiling is referred to the complex and subtle web of discriminations Asian American face in advancing along the corporate ladder. Although Asian American have the highest rate of educations among all demographics in the United States and a high rate of employment, Asian American make up a comparatively small amount of business leader. The model minority myth, which paint Asian American as silent, diligence, and obedience worker, actively prevent Asian American from becoming leaders. So how can Asian American fight against this existing stereotype? So Fred, do you want to kick off these questions, and then I will pass over to Faye.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joanne. So I think corporate America has come a long way in trying to break through this bamboo ceiling concept, but it's still a work in progress for most companies. You know, speaking from my personal experience, I was actually the first managing director of Asian American descent to be promoted to managing director at the executive level in my department 4 years ago. And I clearly remembered when the promotion list was released at my firm, the first thing I did was kind of scan through the list and with the pictures of the promotes. And there were only about 5 Pan-Asian professionals out of the total of 70 people who got promoted that year. And which was just a little bit shocking to me. And, you know, I realized that there's just so much more that we could do to invest, develop our team from diverse backgrounds as a firm. And I could attest to the fact that, you know, as Asian Americans, doing great work is simply not enough to advance your career. That's just the baseline expectation. I had to be very intentional in developing and building relationships with individuals at my firm whom I know could make an impact on my career growth. Otherwise, I know it's going to take me a lot longer to get to where I want to be. And, you know, it took a while too before I got comfortable in being uncomfortable and stepping outside my comfort zone and really taking charge of my career. But it was definitely a shift in my behavior and the way how I operated at work. And it was really my first step in fighting some of these stereotypes of Asian Americans. And, you know, I'm shy naturally, just kind of based on my personality. But over time, getting that experience did help me get outside my comfort zone and taking that first step. And so for me, it was kind of self-taught process that I kind of evolved over time. But being able to follow through on that consistently throughout my career is just as important. Simply not just waiting for opportunities to come to me was also an important factor to make sure that I'm constantly owning my career and making sure that I'm not just waiting on people to provide me with new opportunities. So so hopefully that gives some of you some perspective of my personal story and journey on this topic.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, one of the lessons I learned from earlier in my career is really speak up, because I think you really have to actively seek opportunity. It won't just come to you. So you really, I think speaking up is a very, very important point. So Faye, what's your view on this topic?
Yeah, no, just adding to kind of Fred's point too. I remember growing up and my dad saying, you're going to have to work, twice as hard as anyone else, right? Because you're an Asian, you're an immigrant, you're a woman. And it was kind of interesting, my dad's kind of like the pessimistic, Asian dad, which some of you may have had as well, as right, the glass is always half empty. But it was interesting. There was research done and part of Ascend, and some of you may know Buck and Denise, and they actually kind of quantified that research that to Fred's standpoint, this bamboo ceiling is real. So if you look at it, it can be 2 to 4 times harder for Asians to get promoted into management and executive positions. And you might ask, well, why is that? If you look at it, a lot of the diversity inclusions are really focused on the Latinx and the African-American population, and we're seen as a model minority. And they say, well, look around the cafeteria, there are so many Asians here, you don't need that. But what happens is we get in the door and recruiting, based on where we're going, but we don't get promoted to the next levels. And it's a little challenging there with kind of the model minority myth and kind of the monolith, as our first panel was talking about. So, as Fred was saying, you do have to own your own career, but also how you engage within that as well. I wish someone had told me earlier on, not just only to have mentors, but sponsors. So who are those executives that know what you're doing, believe in your work, are going to be able to represent you at that promotion table or when the new opportunities come, that are going to be willing to advocate for you. So those are some things as you look at kind of trying to tackle some of those perceptions. And I think as we were kind of talking about kind of the anti-Asian kind of sentiment, some of these perceptions too, is how can you increase your own self-awareness and kind of education in the organization. And something kind of I advocate for, and it's free and online, is really understanding your own implicit bias. And Harvard has I just put it in the chat function as well, is that really understanding that. And that's also something you can share with others, because there's one on Asians. So for people to really understand their own bias from that standpoint. So as we look at it, and I would love to kind of hear people from their chat and where they're going, have they experienced a bamboo ceiling? Have they felt it's not clear on how they're going to get promoted? Grayson, feel free to put it in the chat.
Thanks, Faye, and thanks for sharing that that resource. Win and Yi-Ting, do you have any comment to add on these questions?
No, I completely agree with what both Fred and Faye has already shared. I almost think that one of the things that that Faye mentioned was sponsorship. And I think that everybody should think about their own board of directors, having your own personal board of directors, that you go for advice, that you go to help drive where you want to be. And I think that it's really important that if you were let's say you were a baseball player, you don't just have one manager, one coach. You have a batting coach, a base, a first base coach, a third base coach. Well, I think equally you need to have a board of directors that specializes in all those areas that you want to enhance your skills and really use that, that board of directors to help you be successful.
Thanks, Wen.
Sure.
Yiteng, I saw you unmute.
Yeah, so just very quickly, it's never one person's job, even one's own career. The individual will need to rise and voice up, but then at the same time, we need to leverage other people who wanted to support us. So garner that, whether it's the board of directors, but I would say it's a platform. So each of us wanted to have the will and to help others, then together as a platform, we can rise. Sometimes the agents being perceived as, kind of very competitive in different aspects, but in the current now situation, we have to stand by each other. And for career support, and it is to give advice, share tips, but sometimes beyond that is when at the right moment, as giving that voice at the table to say, hey, this is the person you gotta recommend and do this role. And then beyond that, many other situations that we wanted to give other the right opportunity.
Thanks. So moving on to next questions, I personally think I'm very interested to hear our panelists' view on that. It's related to career change. We have some polling questions on this one. Leon, if you can please put that up, thanks. So yeah, so career change during a pandemic, is that a good idea? What are some things that we need to consider, especially, you're thinking about like potentially starting a job in a remote environment, that might be, scary to people to, not being able to build that in-person connections. So including like networking and, relationship building into kind of a new career or a new job. So Faye, I'm going to start with you to kick this off for us.
Great. So I'm seeing kind of the polling here, like half of you are not planning on making a career change. Some are current, a quarter of you looking or thinking about making a change. But just a small percentage have made this change. So, so kind of speaking kind of to that, audience, it really depends on kind of your personal situation. We know really that the market is in flux, as this was kind of mentioned earlier too with Fred and Yiteng, it is a very dynamic environment. We definitely see some industries really flourishing this time of COVID. Seeing investments going up significantly in the healthcare area, in the technology area, especially in the remote area and the kind of AI area. But then we've also seen areas that have taken a hit, right? In the restaurant, travel, retail, kind of storefront area as well. So really depending on your situation, and introspection and also your financial and family environment really depends. But I think no matter what you're doing, how you represent yourself, your digital brand, your LinkedIn profile, your engagement online, your network, you should keep healthy and going. So no matter what, invest in yourself and invest into your relationships in this time. So whether you're looking or not looking to make that career change, I think it's so important. With professionals, especially as they become more experienced, 80% of your next job opportunity will come from your network. So as you kind of look at that, it's very important to kind of keep investing on that. I also wanted to check in and also defer to Win, who's actually made changes during this time.
Thanks. And that's right. In the middle of this pandemic, I took it as an opportunity to make a pivot in my own personal career. I've been with Oracle for 30 years. However, my second job here at Oracle was actually in sales consulting, and it was a job that I absolutely loved. And the truth of the matter is that when I ended up getting a new manager within that role, 20 some odd years ago, that it really wasn't a good fit for me. And I decided to leave. However, I absolutely loved sales consulting. And so since that opportunity, I've had a number of different roles. But in the back of my mind, I always wished that I would have that opportunity to go back into a role such as that. It was just something that was important to me. I loved customer service. I loved having a technical team. I loved grooming people. And so when the opportunity presented itself, you know, occasionally I would look through our Oracle job posting, and it turned out that there was this opportunity. And I thought, why don't I apply? Well, if the position is there, why don't I try? And as it turned out, the particular role that I was initially applying for had already been filled. And I sent a note to the hiring manager saying, hey, I was really interested. And he said that the role was filled, but that there was another position. And if I was interested, that I should apply. And to be honest with you, I wasn't quite so interested in the other position. But then I thought, if they're offering that opportunity for me to apply, why am I saying no when that's the, you know, line of business that I was really interested in doing? I think often we have like these negative naysayers that you might tell yourself, oh, I'm not right for that role, or that will prevent us from making that leap forward. But the truth is that I ended up trying. I ended up going through the interview. I did a presentation for the 30, 60, 90-day presentation, and I landed that role. And I was really hoping to, you know, advance my role. And the position itself was actually at a senior manager position. And I was just thinking, that's not really what I want to do, but let me just go for it. And as it turned out, not only did they see that I was a good fit for the position, but they were willing to elevate that role into a director position for me. And so I feel exceedingly blessed. I'm, you know, blessed that I didn't say no to the interview, that I didn't say no, that I didn't want to at least try. And I think for many of us during this time, it is a difficult time. It's difficult. And one of the other areas that was difficult was that really most of my career has been in the application side of the house at Oracle. And this was actually running a tech on the tech cloud side, which was, you know, our on-prem solutions on the tech side of the house, as well as our cloud tech business. And I certainly have had exposure, understand the solution, but it probably wasn't where was my first. And it was also in public sector, which I had very little experience, but I didn't let that stop me. So when they give you those criteria of what it is that they're looking for, so what if you don't have every single mark checked off? That if you aren't advocating for yourself, if you're not bold for yourself, no one's going to do that for you. So in the middle of a pandemic, say yes to yourself and say, if there's something that you want and feel like it's your opportunity, you should go for the gusto. On the flip side of the house, I do know, as they had mentioned, there are a lot of jobs that have been deeply impacted. And I know that there's a lot of people out there looking for positions, whether it's in recruitment or in the hospitality. I think that sometimes this is a good time to make those pivots. Think about what other skills that you have that you could make a pivot within your career. So those are the things that I would recommend. And thanks for letting me share about my story.
Yeah, thanks, Wen. I definitely agree. You know, saying more yes and just, you know, definitely continue to look out for opportunity for yourself to continue to advance your career. But, you know, as always, you make sure you do research and, you know, make sure, and it really depends on your circumstance to see if it's the right time to make the change, but definitely continue to look out for yourself and say more yes. And I think now, you know, we all in this virtual world, so, you know, your LinkedIn is something that, you know, it's so important to have like a, you know, a online portfolio and kind of really keep up with the networking, even though we're in a remote environment. Fred and Yiting, do you have any comments to add on this topic? Okay, so moving on to the next question is our last questions for this panel, and then we'll jump into the Q&A session. So this question is about ERG, employee resource group engagements. Leon, can you put up the polling questions, please? Thanks. So we wanted to ask the panel, like, what is the best practice to be an effective and impactful employee resource group, especially during this remote environment? How do you engage your ERG member now? Everything is virtual, and how did things change with COVID? Can you share a little bit of your experience? I'm going to start with Wen on this question.
Sure. So as I'm actually the ERG chairperson for OPAL, the Oracle Professional Asian Leadership, but I'm also the co-leader for our Oracle Women's Leadership. And things that we've done that have been very successful. Previous to COVID, we used to have face-to-face events, often networking events, cultural events. We typically, our Diwali events at headquarters had over 500 or 600 people attending. Our Lunar New Year event, we would have face-to-face. We would have dragon dancing and lion dancing and food. Food was a big part of our events. But the reality is, in our virtual setting, we have made the pivot, and we've been really successful bringing in, topics around leadership, around bringing in our Oracle Professional Asianship executive sponsors to talk a little bit about, during crisis, what have they done? How have they been able to help their, the lines of business that they are responsible for? And we've also done some fun things. We've had, game nights. We've had, we use our Slack channels to engage our communities. We use all of the different, whether it's a webinar, using the polling opportunities so that they feel included in the conversation. And over and above that, we've actually had dance parties where we have been teaching Bollywood dancing. For Diwali, we had cooking lessons, and we had cultural awareness about what Diwali is about. We had people singing and performing. So I think that, even though the realities are that it can be very isolating, and you have to make the pivot and do it in a way that is inclusive of more people. And what I find is that because these web sessions allow more people to participate, in the past when they were face-to-face, we would get anywhere from 40, 50 to maybe 150 to 200 at maximum. But now, the last event that we had, which was for the Oracle Women's Leadership, we had over 750 people register for our event and close to 500 people attending. So I think that there is a great lesson that we've learned that will allow us to bring this type of programs moving forward, even beyond the pandemic. Thank you.
Thanks, Wen. Yi-Ting, do you want to share some of the work that you've done
at your
definitely.
Company? Thank you. Thank you, Wayne, for sharing. I just add some maybe specific examples, especially for the group of leaders here. We wanted to do more for our own sort of ERGs. So one is on the career sort of development. I saw there's quite a bit of interest on the poll as well. We have group mentoring sessions. We call it like a 7 cups of chai. Used to be in person in restaurant and cafe. Now it's online. As leaders, or we have also a chai chef. So the chef would organize both mentors, mentees in a group session regularly online, and then focus on particular topics. Those topics are timely, like right now it's year-end conversations. Sometimes it's how to ask for a compensation raise, and how you actually put in your own profile, because we have internal portals similar to LinkedIn, right? For job opportunities, for many other reasons. So the HRs and others, people who are in the group have special expertise, they would share. They were invited and share. So it's quite open conversation. So for career development, those sessions are helpful. Virtually, it's actually even easier because, with Zoom, like you can share screen, you just pinpoint on this is the platform, you can do this and that, and here's the resources where you can, reach out people and the like. So I think that there's the benefit of doing it virtually. On the social front, there were a lot being discussed. I just want to point out also, as leaders, to think more creatively the different programming we can do, We also do celebration, and certainly no large gatherings or, but what we've done is the creative sessions for celebration. A couple of things. One is we have our executive chef. Usually you don't see behind the scene, the chef's kitchen, but they actually one big chef in the big kitchen doing some sort of a cooking. And then we also invite another restaurant. The restaurant head chef is cooking. So the virtual Zoom sessions actually, in sequence, putting those screens on the platform for people who, wanted to celebrate together. So in a way, creating that holiday spirit, and you can also cook along the way and giving you the recipe. So it's kind of fun. And I think the most touching part I wanted to share is some of our colleagues in New York, they couldn't go back to the office. They went to home, and one of them actually went back to California, and she had the opportunity to spend more time with her family and with her mother. So the two of them actually made a great session on how to make chai. It's a very simple thing, but the two, how they arranged it, and then really the spice, the smell, and then with how the video angles, make it so warming and approaching, as if like I am having a cup of tea with the family. I just think with Zoom and lots of other platforms, similarly, you can create that intimacy to allow people to share, even though we're thousands of miles away. So I'd encourage those small sharings on that. And we also have those coffee and connect sessions, just more in general, allowing employees to connect. Because oftentimes we find panel discussions are important, but at the same time, just giving the space, allow employee to share how to do daycares during the situations or how to solve particular problems. But maybe I'll just stop here and then see if any other comments.
Yeah, thanks, Yiting. That sounds like an event I wanted to participate. So yeah, I think ERG, there's definitely, it's definitely different now. We're remote, but I think there's a lot of ways that we can be creative as ERG leader to see how we can really continue on that connections virtually. And I think we all really need to support each other, especially during this time. So thank you very much for the panelists sharing their experience and their advice. I personally learned a lot and really appreciate everyone spending their time with us. So I'm going to move on to Q&A session. So I'm browsing some of the questions in the chat. I think the first one is related to employee resource group. So the question is, my company does not have an employee resource group currently, and we recently hired two DEI, I guess a diversity related role in the company. Maybe some program manager that working within the HR, but the function is focusing on D&I, diversity and inclusions. So what is your advice? And do you have any guidance on how to start the conversations if they're trying to start an ERG group in their company?
I can talk a little bit about that. I actually started Opal, and I looked around and saw that there were, for Oracle, we had several other groups. There was an African-American group, there was a Latina group, there was an open for LBGT, but there was not one for our Asian community. And actually, because the other groups had already existed, it was easy for me to tap in, find out best practices from them. And for us, it was important to find an executive sponsor. It was important for us to work with the D&I group and for us to write down what are the goals, mission, and objectives. And once we had that, it was really important that you find someone that you partner with, because this is not something that you can do by yourself. And by doing that, it was a community that kind of grew organically. We sent out a survey to see if there was interest. And our goal was that if 50 people said that they would be willing to come and want to be part of this, that we would start it. We actually got several hundred people say that they wanted this. And so from that, we are now over 4,000 members and in 23 different locations globally. So it's very exciting to see the growth and the possibility. And we're only 5 years old.
That's very impressive.
This is Faye. I just wanted to add to that too. I think having that executive sponsor and having a couple of those executive sponsors would be really great in helping kind of promote and where you're going. And I think as I was kind of looking through the chat, there are kind of templates, business cases too, a blog, as people were saying, and kind of how you can jumpstart that. But as Wynn was saying, really, getting that, talking with the D&I group, see what's available resources in the process, your executive sponsor, your charter and survey, and off you go. I will also say I founded a couple of my own ERGs too. It definitely a lot of weight. So the more you can build a strong leadership team, and each of your committees have co-chairs, right? So as work gets up on one, there's always someone to back up on it as well. And how you recognize, not all, how you get recognized from it. So at that time when I built it, the company didn't really kind of recognize it, right? Like it was just your night job. So we actually kind of built that recognition in part of our ERG. So we actually did annual awards from that. And so we made our own recognition of like, how can we reward, because it is volunteer. How can we recognize that? And then we'd have our executives present those awards. So it kind of would we did the reverse. If we can't get the executives, we're going to bring the executives to us and say, hey, we want you to give out this award. And they're more than happy to give out an award.
Any other comments from Fred and Yi-Ting? Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, the one comment I have is for anyone who is curious about establishing an ARG in your office or at your company, it's really important to share that idea with the higher up, whether it's a manager or a partner supervisor. You need support from top down because they can help drive the effort forward, right? They know people who can initiate that and get things started. It's kind of because I still remember when I was part of that journey of our ERG here at my firm, it was still a pretty new concept at the time. And it was a long shot for me in a sense that, I wanted to drive, I wanted to kind of get things started, but it's hard when you don't know what resources I had or what resources I had at the time. Until when I spoke to one of the diversity leaders in another office to get some of their input. And at that point is when I knew that, okay, it works when it works on a bigger scale when you're able to get the top-down approach support from people, not only from your office, but other offices as well. What I realized through that process is there were a lot of best practices that some of my other offices had already adopted that I didn't need to recreate the wheel. And I could leverage a lot of those resources and best practices from my other teams that I could implement locally in LA. And so just kind of thinking more broadly and not kind of jumping the gun and wanting to recreate a lot of new things as part of the ERG initiative, I think is important. It's making sure that we have those conversations ahead of time and thinking a little bit more strategically from that standpoint, having a work plan, a framework on how we envision it to work. And I think another important thing to consider is taking baby steps. I know a lot of times we're all very passionate about different things that we want to accomplish, but it's easy to kind of get lost in like really quickly. So just taking baby steps and breaking things down, I think seeing progress made would allow a lot of people to make and progress in a way that they had hoped for. Otherwise, it's just going to backfire as a result. So,
really good advice.
Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly add a couple points. One is really surround yourself with the like-minded people, whether within your large corporate organization or in the community, right? When I was in New York, I remember Melinda used to organize those quarterly meetings, and then we have the different ERG leads just joining and share best practice experiences. So you can kind of get the best practice and advice from the right group of people. I think there was a guide put up on the chat already. So that's a good starting point. And second, I wanted to say is, you know, follow the heart, follow the passion, things would happen. I mean, our organization, the ERGs are fairly well established, but I would say some other smaller interest groups, like, you know, here we have sailing clubs, we have like arts clubs doing like a live model drawings. These are the things that people wanted to do, and they somehow figure out a way, you know, go with the heart, with the passion, get the right people together, and then talk with HR. There are just different ways, different schemes, like in different companies, but I'm pretty confident that, you know, push hard enough, things would happen. Or maybe it's, you know, the organization needs to be kind of transformed along the way.
Yeah, I definitely agreed. And always, I mean, definitely you can always reach out to, you know, Asian Leader Alliance. We are, you know, dedicated to share resources and share experience. If you wanted to start an ERG group, we can definitely, you know, guide you through that process. So feel free to reach out. So I see that we're up for time. So thank you again for our second panelists for your time and sharing your experience and advice with the audience. So we're gonna move on to our panel session number 3, moderated by Samantha Lee. Samantha Lee is currently the Senior Vice President, Asia Market Head at Citibank. She has over 20 years of experience in financial industry with experience in international banking, propositions management, sales, compliance, and other projects. Also have worked, Samantha is an experienced and passionate diversity and inclusion leader, having been served in major leadership capacity for Employee Resource Group at HSBC and Bank of America. She's currently our co-founder for Asian Leader Alliance.
Thank you, Joanne. And thank you, everyone. Thank you. It was great. So far, so good. I hope you won't be disappointed with this panel too. In fact, I'm very excited. I'm very passionate about the community. So I'm very, very honored to be here today to help moderate this third panel. I think this has been a very difficult time for a lot of us. All of us have to adapt to this pandemic in this really unique time. It's new to all of us. I think sometimes it's easy to focus on ourselves and forget about what's going on. But unfortunately, it's actually this time when we really need to think about the community and how the community has been impacted. So again, I'm very happy that I have a great lineup of speakers today. And I would love for them to share their experience and how things have been impacted in the community. I have Judy, Ariel, Meg, Michelle, and JJ as my speakers today. For the full bio, please log on to our website. I have all the information there, but I just want to tell you really quickly about them before I hand it to them to tell us about their nonprofits and a little bit more about themselves. So I guess I'll start with Ariel. Ariel is originally from China, and she came here in 2008. She said that when she first came, she didn't know English with her broken English, but let me tell you now, she's completely fluent. So really good job, Ariel. And she actually is very involved with ALA. She has been leading our ALA's Future CEO Youth Summer Program since 2018, which is a program that partnered with API ERG leaders from many Bay Area companies, such as Salesforce, Uber, KPMG, Airbnb, YouTube. And our mentorship program has mentored over 100 youths from low-income immigrant families. And actually, Ariel is very talented. She's an artist and the founder of Goody and Foodie. Please be sure to check out her website. I was looking at it and I wanted to buy so much of her stuff because it's just so cute. And she's also right now with Chinatown Ymca, and she'll tell us more about Chinatown Ymca in a little bit. So thank you, Ariel. The next person I want to introduce is JJ Lara. JJ is with Oracle right now, but let me tell you, I met JJ in so many different settings where he represents sometimes Ascend, sometimes he represents API, foundations. Sometimes he represents API, May Heritage, or Red Cross. It's because he's involved in so many different organizations to give back to the community. He is really passionate about the community, and also at work, he's also been doing D&I. So later, JJ would love to hear more about your volunteering experiences. The next person I want to introduce is Judy. Judy is the Executive Director with Southeast Asian Development Center. And she's actually been focusing, helping Southeast Asian Development Center for over 30 years. When I was reading her bio, I was like, wow. Actually, Southeast Asian Development Center actually helped her and put her on a pathway to college and career success. And I think that's why she's remained with Southeast Asian Development Center, which is an organization that focuses on issues of education, jobs, immigration, substance abuse prevention, violence prevention, and a lot of great stuff. So Judy has received award from the San Francisco District Attorney's Leadership Award in 2017. And in 2015, she was a 50 Fund Playmaker Recipient Award. And I'll have Judy tell us more about herself in a little bit. Then we have Michelle. Michelle is from Oracle. Michelle is a program associate at Oracle supporting global employee volunteerism. She has a background in nonprofit and community outreach, and today she is also the co-chair on the board of managers at the Chinatown Ymca. And finally, we have Mick. Mick is a program manager at SF Hep B. He has been working in nonprofit sectors, and he's born and raised in San Francisco, very active, and he is a graduate from Lowell High School and also from UC Santa Cruz with a politics degree. So a great lineup of speakers, really happy that you guys are all here. So if it's okay, I wanted you guys to tell us a little bit, in case I miss anything, please feel free to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself. But more importantly, tell us about the nonprofit that you represent. I know you're very passionate about the community. You're very passionate about the nonprofit you work for. Tell us why. So why don't we get started with maybe Judy. Judy, you want to get started?
Sure. Thank you, Samantha. First of all, I want to thank the Asian Leaders Alliance for allowing for me and the Southeast Asian Development Center to talk about our center and our programming. It's not often that many people know about the Southeast Asian community. We are Asian, but it is a very invisible community. And I want to first start off with myself. I came to the US as a refugee from Laos. I'm actually bicultural. My father's Chinese, my mom is Thai. We were all born in Laos. And when the war hit in 1975, we left the country and we fled to neighboring Thailand. And we lived in the camp for the next 6 years before we arrived to San Francisco. And when we arrived to the city, the first place we lived was in the Tenderloin. So that's how I got involved with the center because the agency, I would say, brought me up. They had worked with thousands of refugees and immigrants like myself to make sure that we were safe. We had a place to go to after school. Many people didn't know about the community and the refugee experience. And so as an organization growing up in there, it really fostered a safe place for me to be at. And that's why I'm passionate about this organization. We were previously called the Vietnamese Youth Development Center. We just went through a name change a year ago. And I'm really excited with the new name and the new brand because it really brings to light the issues and challenges this particular community has faced for the past 40 years. So, I'm really excited to be here and to share about more about our nonprofit. But, we exist. Essentially, our organization exists to eliminate the poverty, disparity around health and economic that affects the Southeast Asian community. And the primary group that we serve are Lao Americans, Cambodian Americans, Vietnamese Americans, and also other immigrants that have slowly come into the neighborhood in the Tenderloin. And the Tenderloin is a melting pot, you know, so we're excited to be here. That's about our agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. A great organization. I didn't even know that. Actually, my brother was actually a recipient. He was actually a VYDC as well. So you guys really also help my family as well. So thank you. All right, so let's move on to Ariel. Ariel, you want to tell us more about your nonprofit and yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel. Thank you, Samantha, for the introduction. And thank you, LA, for the wonderful opportunity. I know the leadership team has put a lot of time and energy to host this summit. And yeah, and everything is working out so well. I'm really happy that all of you are here to attend this summit. A little bit about me, like Samantha was saying, I'm from Chongqing, China. If you don't know where Chongqing is, it's on the southwest of China, near Sichuan province. So I came here in 2008 as a cultural exchange ambassador, and then I decided to, after the program, I decided to stay and to progress myself. So. Fast forward to this year, I joined the Y, the Chinatown Y specifically, as a community development director, and I've been with them since February. As we know, started in March, the COVID hits, and I basically joined the team 1 month after we had to put in sheltering in place. So I'm pretty new to the organization, but I've witnessed so many wonderful things the Y has been doing to help our community. I'm actually curious how many of you here are a Y member. If you used to belong to the Y or you still are a Y member, please give me either a thumbs up or just type YMCA in the chat. Just curious to see how many of you are out there are a Y member. Anyways, awesome. Thank you, guys. So there's more slides coming up. I want to save the more introduction later on, and I'll pass it back to Samantha. Thank you.
All right, so moving on, Michelle.
Yes, thanks, Samantha. All right, so hopefully folks can hear me and see me.
Yes.
Perfect, great. So my backstory, born and raised in San Francisco. My family's been in San Francisco since 1905, which still uncovering stories every day, but also kind of grew in the community in Chinatown. My grandmother kind of raised me in a single room occupancy house. Just growing up and being around a lot of family and recognizing that identity and that community is very much a part of who I am. So today I really want to be talking a little bit more about how volunteering can really connect you to the community, especially as many of you are involved within your companies with the employee resource groups, just trying to figure out how to bridge that connection, having come from nonprofit, now being in a position at Oracle where I get to encourage folks to engage with nonprofits. So yeah, very, very excited to be here and also a very proud Y member as well. So throw it back to you.
Thank you, Michelle. JJ, you want to tell us more?
Great. Thank you, Samantha. And it's great to be in the company of such great panelists and the audience that we have today. Thanks for the invitation. For me, I represent many of the nonprofits in the Bay Area. I'm the chair for Asian Pacific American Foundation. So we do the City Hall event here in San Francisco, 600, 700 people, and this year, except it's been all virtual. Also, the Leadership Council for the American Red Cross. I'm the co-VP for Student Affairs as part of Ascend, and I see Katz is out, and so a shout out to Katz, my co-VP, and just a part of the overall community. Practice allyship as much as possible with our own Oracle organizations that we have, OLA, Opal, and many others. And is just, and also many other partners. So today also representing Asian Pacific Fund, they've sent some information along, which I'll share with the group. So just happy to be here and be a part of this great panel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, last but not least, Mick.
Thanks, Samantha. Hi, everybody. My name is Mick. I'm with San Francisco Hep B Free Bay Area. Thank you again so much for welcoming me, and good to see old faces and new. Before I joined Hep B Free, I worked at Airbnb as well with Mabel, involved in our Agents at ERG group. So it's, it's great to be reunited with a lot of folks here today. Yeah, so, San Francisco Hep B Free Bay Area, we're a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to increasing awareness, education, and treatment of hepatitis B. And we're part of this fight in hepatitis B and liver cancer because hepatitis B disproportionately affects Asian American Pacific Islanders. 1 in 12 are chronically infected with hepatitis B, which leads to liver cancer if it's left untreated. So it definitely is one of, it has implications in making sure that our API community here, not only in San Francisco, but in San Francisco Bay Area are tested and also aware of hepatitis B and liver cancer. We provide free and low-cost Hep B testing, community and physician education on Hep B. And, also since our founding in 2007, we have screened over 26,000 people, educated over 1 million people through radio, through billboard ads, TV, bus ads, direct contact, online, you name it. So definitely, happy to be here, and hopefully I can share our insight in public health and in the API community as well.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for the introductions. Like we heard already, we know that this is a very difficult time. There's rising anti-Asian sentiments, there's rising unemployment, and I mean, the truth is, I guess most of us are not in a good mood, right? But tell us, how did it really hit the nonprofit sectors? How are your nonprofit being impacted? How are your clients being impacted? Maybe I'll start with Judy, and then Ariel, and then Mick.
All right, thank you, Samantha. Leon, would you pull up the slide on SCDC, what we do? Great. So before I talk about, if you can go back one more slide, what we do, just so that I can give a background. So before I talk about how COVID-19 impacts specifically Southeast Asian community, I want to give a little bit background on what our organization does and who we target. So we work on 3 specific areas for the community. We do youth development, we do health and wellness, and we do economic success. So these are really our 3 core pillars that help lift our community out of poverty. And in order to do that, we serve roughly about 800 clients a year. They're mainly youth in kindergarten to 12, young adults ages 18 to 24, and then families and seniors. Now, what's unique about our community is really the background of our folks. 90% of our community members, a family of 4, earn less than $30,000. We're talking about San Francisco. The highest income in San Francisco is probably like 90-something thousand. You can imagine a family of 4 living at 30,000. So 17% of our community members live in poverty compared to the national average of 12. And in terms of education level, 75% of our clients all are born outside of the US, and 80% of our clients have less than a high school diploma. So what does that mean when COVID hit us? Leon, next slide, thank you. So when COVID hit, we have been disproportionately impacted. And what that really means is that because of low education, low skill, language barrier, we've seen all of our adult clients, over 60% have lost their jobs. And these jobs have been mainly in the service industry. So it's deeply, deeply and profoundly impacted our community. 60% of our families are experiencing ongoing food insecurity. So they are lacking food because they don't have income. If you don't have income, you have to choose between, do I pay my bills, or do I buy food? Do I, pay for my lights, and then the housing, rental. So it is really an ongoing issue around economic that our clients have been faced for the last 8 months. And then the language barrier. 90% of our adult clients who have lost their job, they needed access to our staff to obtain unemployment benefits, the pandemic benefits. Many of our actual workers are contracted Uber driver. So, when they lost their gig, they were just trying to figure out, well, how do I get unemployment? I don't have, I don't pay into unemployment. And so there was a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of frustration. Trying to get into EDD phone calls was like a nightmare. And so, our staff would be spending like 3-4 hours on a phone call waiting to talk to an EDD representative. So it's hugely been a frustrating experience for our clients, coupled with the language barrier. And then finally, our youth, when that hit, schools shut down, all the students had to be online learning. And, when we talk about poverty, many of these kids didn't have access to laptops, didn't have access to even good quality internet. And so we had to scramble, that first month we were like, I was calling everybody. I was calling Uber, I was calling Airbnb, say, please, can you help us to donate laptops? Doesn't matter if it's used, it's brand new, please, support us with some laptops so that we can get the kids continuing with their education. So that's in reality, it's been a huge struggle because of the language barrier, because of the poverty, and because our community, has been just really under the radar. There's not much materials in their language, in our language, to be able to for us to understand, and so they rely on agencies like us to be able to address that. So that's how our community's been impacted. I will stop at that and turn it back to Samantha.
Wow, thank you, Judy. I heard what you said, and it's really, it's sad, but I know it's the reality. Mm-hmm. And that's why I put together, this panel. I'm really hoping that the audience knows that, maybe you can make a difference. Maybe you can help, right? When nonprofits need help, such as laptop, maybe that's something that you can have your company chip in as well. Or maybe even language barrier. Some of us come from another country. Maybe we can help translate something because I think this community definitely need help. Thank you, Judy. Let's hear from Ariel. What about Chinatown Ymca? How has
yeah. Yes, very similar to Southeast Asian Development Center. The Y also has been experiencing a lot of challenges. Thank you. Can you actually move forward? Sorry. Yeah, all the way to Chinatown Y. And the next one, please. Thank you. Yeah, just a little bit of history about the Chinatown Y. Many people may not know the Chinatown Y was actually established over 100 years ago. And we are a 109-year-old organization who has been dedicated to the community. So in 1926, we actually moved to our current location, which is at the Sacramento Street. And in 2010, we closed the facility and did the remodeling for 4 years. And today, the Y that you're seeing is after remodel. So many people may know us as a fitness center because we're very heavily invested in wellness, fitness, etc. But our services are much more than that. Next slide, please. And our mission is actually to build strong kids, family, and community by enriching the lives of all people in spirit and mind and body. Which meaning we're not just trying to help people to get strong in their physicals, but also in their mind and spirit. So next slide, please. And we also have a very long legacy of providing community services, such as meal distribution, house assistance, unemployment fighting, immigrant assistance, and youth programs. So all the programs that we have been helping the community to really get through their physical challenges or mental challenges or any challenges that come to their way, and we're really trying to help out in any way we can. The next slide, please. So during the pandemic, that really magnified all the problems and challenges that our community are facing. There are so many problems and challenges, and some of the biggest ones that would include food security, such as finding resources or mental health from our community members. Next slide, please. So just want to talk a little bit about, give you some examples. For example, some people may lost their jobs because of pandemic, and then also they might have problems putting food on their tables. And then many kids, they no longer have access to school meals because of school closure. And there's also seniors that are stuck at home and they don't really have any connection with outside world and they feel isolated, right? So all of those problems that many of us may not feel, but there are so many community members that are out there, they're experiencing this on a regular basis. So what the Y have been doing during this time is that we actually really stepped up even further to help the community. So we've been helping to distribute nearly 500 bags of groceries through our weekly food pantries. We also provide childcare for our frontline workers who has to go to the hospital, or the firefighters or the police officers, and they don't have anyone to take care of their kids. So we're stepping up to help them. We also prepared meals for more than 200 individuals from 7 SRO families. So if you don't know the term SRO, it's a single room occupancy, which meaning it's a very tiny room that probably is the size of your living room. And very often, like there's a whole family of 3 or 4, they live in one space, one room together. And they have to share the bathroom, the kitchen area with other families. So can you imagine living in such a small space during this time that we're stuck at home? I mean, I know I would be driving crazy for sure. So, so really feel the empathy for those community members. And then another challenge that we're facing is because of the nature of the Y, we are a service center. So during the pandemic, while the Y is closed, which meaning that we don't have the regular way we're getting the funding, which is through membership. So many members are very kind enough to continue to support us, but many of them also dropped out their membership because of various reasons, which we totally understand. Because of that, we have over 1,000 employees were furloughed, and also many of them were had to reduce hours or salary. So because of those challenges, that we're really looking for help from the community members or from corporates, and there's many other ways that individuals can also help and donate, whatever you can. So, if you've already donated to one of these 3 organizations, then really appreciate your support. If not, please consider make a donation to, one of the 3 organizations here that are presenting today, and every dollar counts and every dollar helps. So thank you for that. I'll pass it back to you, Samantha. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. Yeah, you reminded me about, the SRO, right? The single, what do you call single residence occupants, right?
Single room occupancy. Yeah.
Occupancy. I remember many years ago when I was actually a new immigrant to the US, I was visiting one of my family. And I'm originally from Hong Kong. And Hong Kong housing is super small. But when I first came as an immigrant, when I visited that my relative and who lives in one of those, I was completely in shock because it was like maybe 100 or 200 square. That's all the living space she has. And there's a lot of stuff in her SRO. She has to share the kitchen. She has to share the bathroom. And I mean, I came from Hong Kong where the living space was so small. And I came and I thought in the US, everything is going to be big. I was in complete shock. I think we are lucky sometimes. Most of us here work for the corporate, and I think a lot of us haven't been impacted as much, right? We still get to work from home, but I'm listening to Ariel and Judy telling us how things have really impacted the reality, where a lot of the new immigrants are hit every day. So definitely sad to hear, but I really hope that this group can also help. Okay, so let's move on to Mick. Mick, please share with us.
Thank you. You can move the next slide to, yes, perfect. Yeah, so as I mentioned during introduction, we're a nonprofit public health organization, and a lot of our main work before the pandemic involved being out in the community. That involved going to the Ocean Avenue Lunar New Year Festival, that involved going to the Salesforce Lunar New Year event, and a lot of the work and the ability for us to be able to go out and to educate and test folks are being in these types of events. And obviously during the pandemic, we aren't able to do that. So a lot of our outreach efforts have been hindered because, it's hard to have these face-to-face conversations or talking about health in front of, online as not as well. Though we were able to pivot some of our programming to virtual. That includes educating our physicians on hepatitis B. So every month we hold what we call Project Echo, which is this meeting, this program where physicians come in, they learn from each other about hepatitis B and do different case studies. And this allows them to, essentially be more specialized in being able to treat on hepatitis B. And as I mentioned before, hepatitis B disproportionately affects APIs. 1 in 12 are chronically infected. So it's important to make sure that our physicians, especially here in the San Francisco Bay Area, are well aware and specialize on that type of on the type of disease to make sure they're able to treat their patients, which more than likely, a lot of them are Asian Pacific Islanders as well. Definitely has been quite a bit of a challenge in terms of being able to get other aspects of education, rather, because one thing with public health, a lot of the focus right now is on COVID. And for us, when we're trying to reach out to people and like, hey, make sure you get tested, make sure you still continue to get tested. The main point we want to get across is that even after COVID is over, hepatitis B and liver cancer will still be around. So that's one of the challenges that we're facing in terms of being able to educate folks and making sure that they continue to, one, obviously stay safe and, practice safe social distancing and being able to, get treated for COVID as well. And at the same time, making sure that, especially if you are Asian Pacific Islander, you go out and get tested if you haven't gotten tested before at all. So encouraging folks to go out and talk to a doctor whenever they have their regular checkup.
Thank you, Mick. Great stuff. With your nonprofit, you guys already screened over 26,000 people. I think that's really great work, very important, and educated over 1 million people. Great stuff. So thank you for what you guys do. We heard a lot of the challenges, but I wanted to hear maybe from JJ and also from Michelle, from a corporate perspective, what do you think companies can do, right? I know sometimes ERG maybe organize like a one-day food bank event, but afterward, that's it, right? Like, what can we do to make it sustainable and truly help the community? So maybe I'll start with JJ and then Michelle.
Great, thank you. For corporate, I guess, you know, it's more of a leadership development and also community. So the two things, one, on the leadership development, we really stress for employees to really think about, these are, when you reach out to a volunteer project or a community, you're really taking a lot of initiative and you're really exercising those facilitative leadership roles by stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? And so it could be coordinating a project, it could be coordinating other volunteers to be with you, sharing your passion and reaching out to the community, all those things. And it's really creating and building on your network, because it's an opportunity to be outside of work and connect with others without title, right? And this is just completely people that have a shared passion. And so this is an opportunity to get to know others in your company, others in the Bay Area, leaders, et cetera, that have the shared passion to give back to the community. And it really helps us to build our own social capital. And so when any company or perhaps even personal, there's change, who do you reach out to? Who do you build trust with? And so staying in touch with community, taking advantage of opportunities to give back are both a part of personal growth as well as initiatives at the corporate level. It's been a challenge. It's been definitely a challenge in terms of being in a virtual environment, and Michelle can speak to those. But for the work and groups that I work with around leadership development, we really bring this down to a personal level, where you take it upon yourself to connect with others and practice many of the things that we really just kind of think about in principles and allyship and community and others. So Michelle, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, thanks, JJ. And it's really great to see folks in the poll that are answering. It looks like every person has volunteered, right? So it's lovely to see. And if you are volunteering with your ERG or on your own, I really do encourage you to put that in the chat so that others might, get some ideas and inspiration from you. As JJ mentioned, we at Oracle, we moved to virtual volunteering, but some of the silver linings of that, we have a global employee base. And so we're seeing a lot of collaboration. And I think also Samantha alluded to this, the translation, right? How do we leverage what our company has? And I stress you, to look inward as well as what skill sets do you have to offer? And how might that be beneficial to a nonprofit right now who really is evaluating everything that their population needs at this time. And so it really does go beyond a one-time, those are great as well, but building on a relationship with a nonprofit to really understand what their needs are and how you can prolong that engagement with them. Is it, now that you do have the time, can you commit to a weekly tutoring session or a mentorship with a student where, you can offer them your time and also maybe step away from your meetings of day to day, right? And that's offering a benefit to you as an employee who can engage with a student and kind of, take at refresh, but then also give and kind of close that networking gap, right? So we are seeing a lot of skill-based volunteering. There's also the aspect of community, folks coming together to say, we've had groups, and some of them on the call here, that they tune in and they crochet together and they learn how to crochet. And right now they've just completed, they made fidget blankets for folks with Alzheimer's, and they do that, they meet together, they teach each other, and then those blankets are being donated to an elderly facility in their local area, right? So there are ways. We had folks in India engage with folks in Japan and took students in Japan on a tour through India to experience Mahatma Gandhi's life, right? So there are ways to innovate. There are silver linings, and I do encourage you, to share some of these ideas in the chat. And that's just a few things as well. And it does lead to more retention as a company, more happiness. And that's why we see a lot of corporations really wanting employees to connect in this way.
Yeah, I think definitely as individuals or as ERG leaders, there's a lot that you guys can do, right? Like you can organize an event. I know we've done a lot of food bank. The unfortunate part about food bank is sometimes it's just a one-day thing, not sustainable. I don't know if any of the panelists have ideas to, what can we do to make it more sustainable? But maybe what Michelle just alluded to, right? Like a weekly tutoring program that might help. I also do know that I personally, help do the grants requests, help fill out the grant applications. And then with that, we are able to sponsor some nonprofits. I think those are a great way to give back. But I see that we only have about 5 minutes left. So I wanted to maybe pass it to everyone. What are some call to actions? What are some things that you think the audience can walk away with? What do you think that they can do? Is it really just taking advantage of the mentoring program? What ideas do you have? Why don't I start with you, Judy? I see you nodding your head, Judy.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to talk about how companies and employees can engage directly with nonprofit. Leon, can you go to our slide number 17? And then we're gonna go to 18. Yeah, so I just wanted to show some of the activities that we're doing to respond to COVID-19. We are doing food distribution. What is unique about our food distribution is that we put in culturally appropriate food for our community members. So these are ethnic items that our community makes their meal with. So fish sauce, soy sauce, rice, things that you can't get at your local food bank. When you think about food bank, you get cans, you get cans of soup, and so it can be really hard for Asian families to have those in their staples. So it's not part of the daily food meal. So what we try to do is really make sure that we are supporting and responding to our community in a culturally appropriate way. So food distribution, we do that twice a month. And we hand out over 160 bags. You'll see in those images, we give out 2 bags to the family. And along with that, also we do testing. So we are actually translating the registration form, and then we walk the clients over to Glide Church to get the clients tested. So we go with them, and so we're always looking for translators who can speak Vietnamese, who can speak Cambodian or Laotian, really helping our seniors and our folks who have language barrier, take them to the testing site. They're really comfortable if somebody speaks their language. So they're more likely to get tested if they go with somebody that speaks their language. And then finally, just like having accessible internet, laptops, being able for our students to be able to learn. We were able to get laptops donated by Uber and Twitter. So we're really thankful for corporations who are able to round up laptops and donate that to our community. So Leon, can you go to the next slide? So some ways that right now we're looking for volunteers. So we're seeking both these one-time and then ongoing as well. So the ongoing, it's really, a lot of folks talked about mentorship, and I think mentorship is one of the key ways that you can help a disadvantaged youth or family, really get out of poverty, is that sharing your experiences, being the person that's able to help them with their homework, even reviewing their personal statement. There are a lot of young people, ready to go to college, but what makes the personal statement special? How did you get into college? So I think coming in, being able to mentor a young person with that, it just really would, it's a huge impact on a youth life. And then on the other flip side is mentoring a young person with resume, preparing them to transition as a young adult into the workplace, into the work field. So those are areas that we seek ongoing engagement and volunteers from corporation. And then finally, with like one-time events, we're always needing that. We will have actually 4 more food distribution dates in the upcoming 21 year. So we're seeking 2 drivers per distribution. So if you have time, 2 hours out of your day, on these dates, we are seeking help to load and unload groceries from the food bank to the center. So you must have a vehicle. And then finally, translator. If you're able to speak any of these languages, we love your help to take our clients literally to get tested. And then finally, this is a long-term one, and Jimmy, is our board member. We are seeking also board members, to help fundraise, governance, and oversight of the organization. So we're seeking a few more new board members, and that's like a 5 to 10 hour commitment. And next slide, Leon, and I just want to put up on the screen my contact. If anyone here is interested, please contact me so that we can follow up with you. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Judy. Ariel, can you share with us what are some takeaways you want the audience to walk away with?
Sure, yes. So we have also a lot of volunteering opportunities. Volunteer is always one of the best ways to give back to the community. And we're also looking to develop long-term partnerships with the corporates or ERGs. Like while you're contributing to the Y, we also want to understand what we can help to help your business grow. So long-term partnerships is always very needed and a great way to help each other. So because right now everything is virtual, so we actually have been really thinking about how to help the volunteers who wants to help the community to volunteering. So for example, right now we're working with YouTube. And in January, they are going to have 2 workshops, virtual workshops, to teach our youth how to do video editing. So that's one of the events that we're like, okay, we can't do it in person, but we can do it virtually. So like really, we're trying to think outside of the box and to be innovative, to involve the corporate ERGs or any other organizations want to contribute to the community. And can you please go to slide 27? Thank you. The reason I want to save this is because it's a fun event, and it's going to happen in February 2021. So we're going to have our 43rd annual CCHP Chinese New Year virtual run. I want to see if any of you here in our audience, if you have actually done this run before. Of course, before it's not virtual. If you have done it before, please write down run in the chat. Just want to see if any of you has participated before. So, of course, Michelle. So this year, we're going to host a 3-week virtual run. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys has already, participated in one run or virtual run already, or even have heard about it before. So it's really easy. You sign up and you run on your own schedule. You pick a day and you just run a trial that you really like, and then you need to use your Apple Watch or your Fitbit to monitor the miles and the time, and then you just upload the result to our system. All that information is online. It's the link right here, YMCA San Francisco, YMCASF.org CNY run. So you can find all the information on that website. So there's multiple ways you can involve. If you want to, encourage your company to be involved. You can join as a corporate team, or you can ask the ERG or the company to be a sponsor. Another way is that you can motivate other people to join the event and run with you, or pick a day to run together, but not together. You mean like run with your friends on the same day, or even the same time. And then if you are not really a runner, you want to just give back to the community, you can always make a donation, and it's 100% tax deductible, and you can deduct at the end of the year, for your tax purpose. And we also send out, thank you letters and with the tax language. So all of those funds that are raised through this event is going to help family support programs. If you are really interested in knowing more about this program, knowing more about this the run, feel free to contact me. My information is at the bottom. Also, if you are just interested in general about what the Y has been doing, especially the Chinatown Y, because our focus is much more on the Asian or Chinese community, and I'm also happy to have a more chat with you after this meeting. Can you go to the next slide? Just want to show a couple of pictures from last year. This is the year of rat. So we had, people wearing the rat ear. That was really cute. So some really nice memories. And then can you go to the next slide? And just want to thank you and really, for your support and to take the time to be here to listen to us about how the community has been impacted and how you can give back. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. What about Mick? Let's hear from you, Mick.
Yeah. Leon, if you could put it to slide 31, please. I'll be brief. Perfect. Thank you. Main takeaways. Get tested. If you are unsure of your status, it is not too late to ask your doctor. If you're getting a COVID test, ask for a Hep B test as well. But most important thing is just know your status, because it'll go a long way in making sure that it's not too late before you, if you go on untested, you don't know you're going to get liver cancer until it's too late. So, get screened for yourself, your family and friends. Educate yourself on hepatitis B. Visit our website, sfhepbfree.org. Also, if you're part of the ERG groups, talk amongst your colleagues, and also donate if you can. And finally, if you have folks and contacts in the community, please connect us to the right people, whether it be, clubs, language schools, different organizations, churches. Churches are big ones also that we've worked with previously. Anything you can think of, definitely connect us with them. Leon, if you could slide to the first previous slide. Thank you. So there's my contact information, mick.delrosario@sfhepbfreebayer.org. Also the contact information of our executive director, Richard So. Yeah, and if you have any questions, I'll still be around here, and feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Mick. Michelle, what about you?
Yeah, thank you, thanks. Yeah, hopefully folks are inspired here to take action, and looking at the survey results too. A lot of you are aware of what your corporation might provide for you. If not, quickly check. It's the holiday season, you might have some time. So if you haven't leveraged your company's match, or you're able to donate, you have the ability to do that, definitely look into it, or volunteering policy. And it might even just be, looking at any of these opportunities here and committing to one of them, right? So it could be small, but it's something, and so encourage you to continue to make movements to get involved and stay connected with the community.
Yep, very well said. And finally, JJ.
Thank you. Yes, I echo what's been said. Just take it upon yourself to find out what your company is already doing and get connected. Find out what the ERGs are doing, and if there isn't an ERG yet, form one. get others together with you. And it's just so important to understand that, you know, it's critical to have that voice, right? And it's whether it's to give back to the community for, you know, things like, you know, hatred and racial and anti-bias campaigns, it just being, having the flexibility to have a voice when it's needed is really important. And the other is, I just want to give a plug to Asia Pacific Fund. Audrey sends her regards, and just what she recommends is to support their recovery funds, join as your ERG lead, be on the board. And so they have a great partnership with, for example, Judy and other organizations. So, you know, get together with others and see where you can lead, and as a board member, advocate for resources, see where there's matching campaigns. So just a great organization, and I'll put their link in the chat there for everybody. So that's it. Thank you.
Very well said, everyone. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I really enjoy moderating this panel, and thank you so much to all the panelists for your time.
All right, awesome. So Leon, if you could help with doing the last poll, which is the ending one, the ending poll. But thank you very much. I mean, this is kind of a work. I want to give a round of applause to everyone on the panel, Samantha Lee to help putting this together, Joanne. There's a lot of people's work, time, and effort to make this happen. This is the first time that Asian Leaders Alliance have ever done a summit like this. I think this is a great way for our community to get together to talk about the big different topics that happen throughout the year that is important to us, that has affected us this year. And it's a way for us all to get a little bit closer to each other, to get to know each other, and get to know that you are not alone in the struggle. You're not alone doing these efforts. There are others here you can reach out, work together, collaborate, et cetera. And that kind of leads into kind of like one of the things I wanted to jump in through, which is the pillars of an ERG. Samantha touched this a little bit earlier. I don't know if people know, but ERGs were actually originally created in IBM to be an advocacy group. Something was happening to the Black community, and they wanted to rally employees that were of that same demographic, but also allies, to be able to speak up and bring awareness to the community around them, to their employer, to their friends and family. And so these are the 5 pillars that ERGs should keep in mind and should know. Like, obviously you can't do 100% on everything, but these are where your values, where your pillars, where your things is. And one of it is always our own selves, our cultural identity. So typically that means hosting Lunar New Year events, sharing people our food, sharing people about our culture, but also educating and also getting us to learn about ourselves and our own history. I mean, I think a lot of us who are born, or Asian that are born in the US, we don't actually know much about our culture. This is an opportunity for us to educate ourselves, but also to educate the people around us. Second one is, as we all know, is that we always should be involved in the community. The community around us, the nonprofits, they're the ones that are helping the demographics, whether it's our own community or other communities that need help. But without them, there would be more disparity. There would not be what we talk about being more equitable and equal for everybody. They're the backbones to actually help the community that is in need on a larger scale. The next one is around advocacy. As ERG started for the fact of advocacy, it's also important for us to stand up as a group. The reason why ERGs were together was the fact that we can stand up as a group together and not as individuals. And that way we have a stronger voice to our leadership, to our organizations, to the community about what is affecting our community. But that doesn't mean that we only talk about things that affect our community. We are also allies and also embrace and help the other communities that are struggling too, as in the Black community, Latino community, Indigenous, LGBTQI. We are also to advocate ourselves and others. And then the ones that most of us are kind of used for is actually employee value. So doing programs like professional development, mentorship, et cetera, things that would actually make our employees and our community that at our company to improve themselves, to become towards what they want to become. That's very important. And one thing that not all groups, but this is one thing that we still also have to remember, as ERGs, we are part of a corporation. We are part of an organization, and their success is also our success. And so as part of that, we are particular lenses for them. We should bring awareness to stuff. And we could help the business by multiple things, such as helping them with recruiting and bringing more people of a particular diverse community into not just the workforce, but also into leadership. Bring awareness of helping them in terms of their product or services to be culturally aware and be able to target demographics and be respectful of the culture. Those are different things. So an example of that would be like Hallmark. A lot of their holiday cards for Lunar New Year, Pride Parade, et cetera, wasn't done by a marketing department within the company, but it was actually by their ERGs that brought awareness that these is a huge target audience that they could have be creating materials for and cards for, and that ERGs helped the business be able to get into that market and grow. And so there's different ways that we as ERGs could add value and educate our organization and corporate to that. And at the end of the day, we all benefit from that. ALA, as you know, we've been around not that long, actually. Everyone hears about what we've done. We've only been around for about 3 years. But in these 3 years, we've done many, many things. And one of the things about, this is truly a collaborative event, collaborative organization. It's all about the community. It's all about the ERGs. It's all about the individuals that actually made this happen. And so you see here our mission. ALA's mission is to equip, empower, and enable Asian Pacific Islander employee resource groups, members, and their allies to grow as civic leaders and advocates for the community. Our vision is to foster collaboration across the API community, API employee resource groups, and civic organizations to spur positive long-term and inclusive community impact. And over the last 3 years, we have over 85 ERGs around the US that's involved. Over 400 people that's been engaged either through emails and our Slack, et cetera. We've raised money through events. We've done youth development programs and we thought of scale. We also had different ERGs spearheading initiatives so that we could all be engaged and in part. ALA is not an organization or an entity. We are not a governing body. We are a community of ERGs that are passionate about this. And so everything you see is driven by those. And perfect example is the community that's involved. These are just some, not even all of the ERGs that have been engaged with ALA over the past 3 years. There's probably another 20 or 30 that's not put here because there's a lot of you guys that it's hard for us to keep up, but this is just a snapshot of the diversity that is engaged. And this is not just tech. If you look around, we have Disney, we have Estee Lauder, we have nonprofits, we have clothing, we have fashion, we have finance. It is not just tech. Tech is actually a smaller portion of it. This is a truly, truly diverse community of ERGs that are involved, and these are Asian ERGs. And so, as we said, we've had a long history, or a relatively short history. This started as a group of ERGs that wanted to learn from each other, get together, do things together. And we've all learned that we wanted to also give back to the community together, to do something that one ERG could not do, but many of us together can do a much greater impact. And so we met at events and we've done stuff. And then we as a group decided that we should actually try to do something together because no one's done this. And in the world of ERGs, it fails and felt like that us individually within our organization were the only people that were doing it. But it's a new world when we notice that we aren't the only ones doing this in terms of the Asian cause or the community or being allies. We've had 30, 40, 50 other Asian ERGs that are having the same struggles where we can learn and do things together with them. And so with that, we actually kicked off our celebrational event. And this is one of those ideas of what was like truly, truly collaborative. This event, we raised over $14,000 for Chinatown Ymca and Southeast Asian Development Center. And so you think that, ALA probably put in the money. Sorry, we are not a nonprofit, we're not an entity. We don't have money. But how do we kick this off and how do we raise that money? It was the power of the ERGs. We had Uber hosting it at their facility buying over $2,000 worth of food so we could have food there for people. We had Salesforce provide $2,000 in budget for food and wine. We had Dolby providing beer and some other budgets in order to help out. We had even San Francisco City Hall reaching out to restaurants to donate food for this event so we could raise money. This was truly a collaborative event with over 6 ERGs putting in their budget, their time and effort. EY sent 40 volunteers to help us man check-in and registration and the food in the bars. This is truly what it means to be very collaborative and us working together so that we could pull off something that one of us cannot do alone, and a way for us to be more of an inclusive community. Another example is actually our youth development program. The Future CEO program that we had with youth. When we started ALA, we want to do things together, but at the time we were like, well, maybe we do a career panel. But as my experiences as someone who works for a nonprofit that works with youth, a career panel is cool, but we have over 15 ERGs here, and we can't highlight all 15 that easily. Kids will get bored, but with a career panel, they'll forget about it over 2 or 3 weeks later. So what we did instead is we partnered with Southeast Asian Development Center and Chinatown Ymca to actually develop a 8-week program. We as ALA and ERG members are not experts in youth development, and that's why we worked with 2 nonprofits who were experts with youth development. And we created an 8-week program that 30 kids each week would do a workshop at different companies. They did it at Marsh, they did it at McKesson, they did it at Google, they did it at Salesforce. 2 companies would partner up and host it together. So I believe like Salesforce hosted it with Google. We had other organizations, and the way we did that so that 1, the ERGs themselves could collaborate. 2, the youth actually had interactions with more people. Over that 8-week program, we've had over 400 volunteers interacting with those kids. Those kids got to see people just like them with very similar history as they did in a corporate setting. And now kids that have gone through this, our first program, still talk about it to this very day. And this is an example of how we could work together. But if we plan and think well, each of the ERGs only had to worry about 1 workshop. It wasn't something that we all had to go way too big, but it was a great way for us to individually do pieces of 1 task to be able to do something that changes people's lives. But we've also not just been doing this ERG stuff and like making stuff up. We actually had planning sessions with ERG leaders that wanted to join us to think about what should ALA be and what can we do, what should be our goals, what should be our missions or values. Everything you see here is actually truly cooperation of multiple ERGs putting in their input to kind of drive where ALA is. And from us going forward, that will always be the core to ALA is actually, we are a community that is being driven by our the ERGs here on what we as a collective should be doing. And so wanted to try to do one really quick thing just to kind of to see what we've done. We've founded in 2018. Right now it's 2020. These are some of the major things that we've done, but there's been other events that we haven't put on here. But if you look at it, we did the fundraiser and CEO, the fundraiser and kickoff. There was a Crazy Rich Asian screening that was done. If you look here, these are the organizations that actually spearheaded those events. Crazy Rich Asian screening that was done. It was done by Dolby, Square, Airbnb, and Twitter. The toy drive and holiday drive that was open to everyone. Dolby, Square Force, Salesforce, Blue Shield, Grant Thornton, Aria, they partnered together to host this so that all of us could come and join and celebrate and give back to the community. And even this year in 2020, the MARC Toolkit, the anti-racism campaign, we've totally turned the youth development program into a virtual program for the youths because we believe we still needed to continue to help them, especially in this time of being sheltered in place. But we've had an amazing professional development series called Gateway that we even partnered with, ALA partnered with Asian Business League and NAP San Francisco to make that happen. The idea of ALA is to collaborate collectively. And so we had groups like Google, Confluent, Netflix, Airbnb, Salesforce did this cross social hour, and Real Talk, as you probably heard Pawan did earlier. And even today, what you see right now, the ERG Summit is a collaboration of all of us working together to make this happen. And so everyone always comes to ask me, you know, what could ALA do for me? And I always say that it's not the fact is what ALA could do for you, but is what you are willing to do for the community. Because at the end of the day, when we all put an effort and we all try to do something and we share and we collaborate and cooperate, we can execute and get more things done with a bigger impact. And so you've heard a lot of stuff of the topics we have. We would love to do more summits and sessions like this. There's tons of initiative that and people have. We would love to see organizations, businesses to collaborate, ERGs. So if you're interested in learning more, you could take out your phone, you could scan, you can go to AsianLeadersAlliance.com. You could join us as an ERG organization, so you representing your ERG officially, or you could join yourself as an individual, because we do have two parts. I am representing my employer or my ERG, but I also represent my own passion and such. And so after you join, please join also our Slack. It's a community that we have so that ERG leads are open to actually communicate, connect, interact, make friends, and do bigger things together. And so that's pretty much what I have today. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. And, you know, we could stick around here and for those who are interested, we could hang out here on the call bit. But if you have any questions right now, actually, me and Samantha, who's the co-founder and co-president with me, can ask any questions that you have.
Could I just please say thank you to Samantha and Jimmy for, I know how hard this must have been to do all this work, to bring this together. I am so incredibly thankful for your leadership and for just bringing the community together. Thank you.
And thank you to all the speakers, all the panelists. I know it's super late for Tang. Thank you for staying late. And thank you, Wayne. I know you are super busy, but you still took the time to join us and actually participate on all our planning calls. Really appreciate to all, special shout out to all the panelists. Thank you. Thank you for making it possible.
Thank you.
So Robert, you were asking about the website for our career workshop information. So if you go to ALA, AsianLeadersAlliance.com, on the upper right, there's a tab for, I think it's post or blog. That will go to our Medium blog. Actually, on our Medium blog, we have articles that people have submitted, and a lot of them is around our professional development. So when we do put up videos after the professional development series or announcing our new ones that we're gonna do for next month, they're all posted there. And if anyone here is interested in actually contributing to the blog, we actually welcome anyone to be able to post on the ALA publication so that we can continue sharing our knowledge together for this community. I know there was a lot of people asking about how do you start an ERG. I started mine at Salesforce about 8 years ago, and the landscape is a lot different than it is then. But we have people here on this very call that may have started it within the last 8 months. And they might be able to help you right now based on what's happening right now. So it's really good to get the perspective of those who've been in it for a long time, but it's also great to get perspective of those who just started.